Hey, spare seat here if anyone wants it. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for coming to this beautiful store, Aquarium Gardens. My name's George, and before we start the workshop, I just wanted to say thanks so much to Dave for inviting me. Thanks to everyone that's come near and far. Some people from Manchester, welcome. And we're just going to have a really good, fun time. I want it to be quite interactive. If you've got any questions, just fire away. It's going to last a couple of hours or so, 2 to 3 hours maybe, depending on how quick we can go and sort of how many questions I get and things like this. I'm just so privileged and grateful to be able to do this really, because it's obviously my job, but it's also a passion, you know, and to be able to do your job, you know, that you're passionate about, I think I'm very, very lucky. And the actual practicalities of setting it up is you know, can be quite complex, but I'm trying to sort of simplify it for you. I know there's some quite advanced scapers here and there's some absolute beginners here as well. So I try to make it accessible to everyone. And maybe one of the things I'd like to really get across is not just how to aquascape and like the how and what and all the equipment and stuff, but actually thinking a bit more deeply about why we aquascape and what kind of things it can bring you to your own life and your own levels of joy with the hobby, because it's a very unique hobby and that combines so many beautiful elements. You know, you've got water, of course, which is a absolutely fundamental thing for life on Earth. And I think just by living with a source of water that looks beautiful actually makes you feel really calm. There's a lot of evidence out there now. It lowers your blood pressure, lowers your heart rates. You know, we live in a very stressful, sometimes stressful world, you know, full of notifications, and, you know, people's work lives can be quite hectic and family lives, etc. So, you know, your aquascape can actually be a kind of source of therapy, you know, in some ways, and it certainly has for me over the years. And it's one of those things where it's not necessarily about just trying to achieve this end goal, you know, of something beautiful to look at, but actually enjoying the process of doing it, you know, and even enjoying things like algae and you know, an unhealthy plant, because these, it can be perceived as like a failure, but actually there's just an opportunity to learn, you know, and the more kind of failures and mistakes you make, the more you can learn. Is it working? Yeah. So, you know, a lot of you may have struggled in the past, or maybe struggling at the moment with your own aquascapes at home. I still have blackbeard algae, you know, but you kind of learn to live with it and just try not to be too hard on yourselves, you know, with your own aquascapes. And it's quite easy to be a bit overwhelmed sometimes, especially online and in books and magazines and in beautiful stores like this, when you see these magnificent creations. And we live in a comparison culture where we're always trying to kind of, yeah, we're comparing ourselves and, you know, why doesn't my tank look like this? Try to step away from that and just, like I say, enjoy your own journey with the hobby, enjoy those mistakes, and enjoy the process of just gradually improving, you know, not trying to hit that, you know, contest level winning scape straight away, but enjoy the journey, you know, rather than the destination. And that sounds quite cheesy, but it is what it is, you know. So yeah, that's a bit of rambling to get us going about aquascaping and why it's such a beautiful hobby. We'll talk more about different elements of it, obviously, whilst we're doing it. But yeah, if you've got any questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt or put your hand up or just shout out or whatever. But thanks for everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. There will be refreshments towards the end, and I'll be around a little bit at the end as well, just to have a chat. My wife's going to pop in towards the end to rescue me as well, so that's exciting. Okay, so let's talk about the actual system, shall we? Yeah, sorry, it's all right, mate. The only other thing is if it isn't working, just unplug your mic and rely on the internal mic. I'll just check if this is working okay. There we go. That's definitely working. That's good. Okay, mate. Do you want me to do anything else? Okay, good. So this is an Awase Escaper Line 90. Full disclaimer, I am an Awase ambassador, so I'm going to say how brilliant it is. As you can see, it's a beautiful aquarium, low iron glass. It has a couple of unique features. It has these 45-degree mitered corners here. Very minimal silicone work, so you're not getting distracted by any ugly silicone there. We do have the light ground background here. It's not on at the moment, but you can see what it will look like on this escape here, for instance, like a beautiful illuminated background there that hangs on the back, just like an LED panel. The cabinet has some cool features. It has these removable kind of inserts here, which allow your hoses or your CO2 tubes to come out, and they can actually be configured, so you can either have like a really big hole or a smaller hole. The doors, soft close hinges, push to release, and you have these really cool magnets, quite powerful, on the side here where you can hang your stainless steel tools. And also, if you're running a Biomaster filter, you've got your quick release filter, which you can access really easily by a sliding drawer down here. So they've really thought about the design for aquascaping, and a real big fan. I've got a Escaper Line 60 at home. I'm actually going to get another one soon so I can turn over more escapes. This measures 90 by 45 by 45 centimetres. So that's 3 foot by 18 inches by 18 inches, about 180 litres or so. But a great size tank, real big enough to have lots of opportunity for different stocking options. You can kind of go a bit more medium-sized fish if you wanted to. It's rimless, so there's no hood, of course, so you will get evaporation. And if you've got hard water, one of the disadvantages is that you'll get these hard water marks that build up. So just bear that in mind. If you're lucky enough to live in a soft water area, for Manchester guys, you probably won't see that so much, but just something to bear in mind. And because it's rimless, just be careful with what fish you stock as well, because some fish do like to commit suicide, unfortunately, and shrimp as well like to climb out occasionally as well. So just bear that in mind. You can mitigate this by creating a beautiful home so they don't feel the need to commit suicide. Floating plants, lots of plant cover, but just be careful. We're trying to create a beautiful home. These are living entities within our care, and we have a responsibility, to give them the best that we can. So stock appropriately, don't overstock, of course. We can talk more about fish selection later once we've done the escape, maybe. Filter, we'll be using a Awase Biomaster 600 Thermo. Many of you will have heard of the Biomaster filters, excellent. They have the quick release pre-filter, built-in heater as well. I know here at Aquarium Gardens they like to change the media. I just use the media straight out of the box, which works absolutely fine. The Biomasters, they come with like a grey kind of translucent hose and black plastic pipe work. With these kind of escapes, of course, we try to upgrade to glassware and clear hoses. We do, Dave stocks, the Aquarium Garden stocks the Neo, the Aquarium stuff, which is acrylic. So you can, if you're a bit reluctant to go glass, because it can be quite fragile. I've broken a few over the years. The acrylic's very hardy, but it has it's more of like a it's not a shiny, basically. It's a bit kind of a smoky finish, so you don't get quite that minimalist kind of look that you can see here. That's the equipment in a nutshell, I think. We'll be using CO2 injection in line, I think, in this size aquarium. You can use in-tank diffusers, I'm a big fan of inline. It removes more equipment from the Aquascape. You tend to get better CO2 distribution as well, because it's actually in line with the outlet of the filter. So those CO2 microbubbles are getting fired around the aquarium really effectively. In a huge aquarium like this, I think the guys have got 2 separate diffusers, one on each filter, to really get that CO2 around the whole tank. Dave, can I get another Coke, please, mate? Cheers. Now it's going a bit dry. Is there any questions on the equipment itself? So just a rough ballpark figure. All of this. I mean, this is sorry, I haven't talked about the lighting, have we? It's the Life Aqua Master Pro. It's about £800. Yeah, so not cheap.
This current model was reduced to 600. Actually, we've got 4 left.
Okay.
We've got a new one coming out. So
cheers, everyone. So yeah, expensive. It's an expensive system. This is like a high-end premium brand, but in my opinion, you get what you pay for. It's out of a lot of people's price range. You can go a lot smaller if you wanted. You can go second hand, but you can also buy a typical off-the-shelf system, like a dual tank with the built-in heater, built-in lighting, built-in filter, and you can still create some beautiful aquascapes. So don't feel that you have to spend thousands of pounds on your equipment to create something like this. You can create things like this in a much kind of lower cost bracket. Good.
how much is the tank, George?
That's a really good question, Dave.
935.
For the tank and cabinet.
Yeah, tank cabinet. Yeah.
Tank and cabinet 935, lighting 800, backlight, filter, everything here you see by the end of the workshop, everything here looking at probably 3K altogether. So it's not a cheap system. But we're not here to sell the products. We're here to sell aquascaping. Okay, so but just to give you some context about what you might want to spend if you want this kind of high level system. Okay, let's start scaping, shall we? Got a few different products here, as you can see. We'll put the soil in at the end, so I'll just take that out. We've got Awase Scaper soil and Tropica soil powder. I am a Tropica ambassador as well, so it's really great to use their products too. And we'll be using mostly Tropica plants, of course. This is a new one, which we can talk about in more detail in a minute. Rio Onion, or Onion, as I like to call it. And we have a Rio ambassador here, so you might want to give us a little bit of a in-depth description of it. And then we have the ADA Power Sand Advanced here. So when the guys here set up new scapes, they tend to use this at the bottom of all of their substrate systems. Let's get some scissors. And it has a variety of benefits. It has nutrients, long-term nutrients. I think it's got activated carbon in it as well to remove any kind of nasties. Has like a bacteria starter in there as well, I believe. And a whole kind of, like I say, mixture of different nutrients long-term to provide, long-term nutritious substrate for the plants. It's basically like a pumice material, coated in looks like kind of a peaty substance. And we'll just spread that across the bottom of the aquarium. And a top tip, I like to smell it. Keep a kind of open, empty area around the front. Otherwise, these kind of tend to look a little bit ugly pressed up against the glass. So a lot of professional scapers will use gloves. I actually really like to get my hands a bit dirty. I think it's really nice to actually physically connect with these products. Feel it literally against your skin. Almost reminds me of playing in the mud as a kid. I think there's something really quite kind of joyful and playful around, remember when you're playing in the sandpit or in the garden. I don't know if you kids are allowed to do that these days with health and safety. But yeah, I like to touch the stuff. You can use tools as well. We've got sand flattener there. Can you just pass me that? Just pass me the whole thing, mate. Thank you. So if you want it to be really fancy, you can kind of do this. And then, like I say, just keep a definite gap there. You don't have to use this, by the way. This is a kind of optional extra just to give a little bit more of a, like I say, nutritious substrate. It also provides like aeration, so there's less chance of the soil compacting over the months and years potentially. So it's a very kind of tough, basically like pumice. It's like a volcano kind of rock. Very porous, loads of collination for bacteria. So it's a good product. I guess it's very expensive because it's ADA. I don't know how much it is. £100?
That bag's about, so that's like £70.
70, okay.
It's got all the ADA additives included.
Yeah, it's got tourmaline BC. It's got the carbon, bamboo charcoal. But it looks good, doesn't it? So yeah, that's our kind of base layer there. Now I'm going to go for a triangular composition. So when I was thinking about what scape shall I do for you guys today and for the store in the long term, of course, looking around, there isn't actually that many strong triangular compositions. So this is slightly triangular here, and then the lily scape over there. But this tank will eventually be kind of up against this wall here. So it makes sense to have a triangular coming down here. So when you guys, visitors, come in, they can see the aquascape coming up and away. So this is a good lesson for your own scapes at home. You know, consider where you're going to be viewing the escape from most of the time, and scape accordingly. You know, you might not be sat in front of that aquarium. You know, you might be off to the angles. You might off at an angle. So just bear this in mind, maybe when you do your next scape. I do love triangles. They just look really good, like almost instantly. Draws the eye nicely across the scape. So yeah, we're going for a nice triangle today. So with the triangle in mind, we're going to mound up some of the next substrate product here, which is the Rio Onion. Eonian. How do you pronounce it, Ty? Eonian. And this is quite similar actually to the power sand in its kind of porous volcanic ash structure. But I have heard it's got a very good nutrient profile. In fact, if you look at this small escape here on the right, that's the onion, isn't it? In there, and you can see how well the plants are doing. So it does contain long-term nutrients.
Yes, the slow release.
Okay. I don't necessarily believe in fate or anything like that, but you know, as a professional aquascaper, to live so near, you know, one of the country's leading aquascaping stores, I think it was just like a stroke of, you know, such luck. And you know, I remember Dave when he set the place up, 2016, Dave.
Yeah, 2016, yeah.
And he literally was just this unit here, and I think he had one tank. And all the plants were kept in these trays with like, and you know, to see the place as it is now was just, it's really great to see it evolve. So yeah, just a cool story for you. I think Dave actually saw me out running one day, and he was that, is that George?
Where George lived, and I was driving to work one day, and there he was doing his running as he does.
Yeah.
And then I think I reached out to him.
Yeah, and then we had the UCAP's Aquascaping experience that you sponsored. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Anyone from UK Aquatic Plant Society here? Any members? Yeah, good. Just a bit of a plug. The UK Aquatic Plant Society, that's ukaps.org, have their own forum. So if you want to go deep online, you know, you don't necessarily want to use Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, you can actually find some really great articles, some really great journals of people sharing their knowledge for free. I don't go on there so much these days, but there's lots of pinned articles that I've written on there But it's a really great source of really good quality information, which is all searchable as well by category, whereas Facebook, Instagram is all very much kind of on the fly, instant gratification. This stuff is like really, if you want to go a bit deeper, a bit more serious, then definitely consider joining the UK Aquatic Plant Society. Okay, I think that's okay for the base layer there. Any questions so far? No? Doing my job well then. It's good. Okay, I'm just going to move this out of the way a second. Okay, all right, let's see what we've got here. That's probably a good one. Flat one there. Okay. Anyone know what this is called? Stone. This is a Hakkai Stone, apparently. The original Hakkai Stone is a very rare stone, originally from ADA, collected from some really cool Japanese river. This is kind of a generic version, but it looks very similar. As you can see, it's quite a rounded texture, but really quite beautiful. When it's wet, it will look, really shiny and darker as well. But I thought I'd use it. It's not been used in the store yet. I've never actually used it at all, ever, before. So I'm quite excited to give it a try.
You stop that, Dave?
Yeah.
You stop that, do you? You do, yes.
Yeah, it's quite very dense, so it is a bit more expensive versus, because you pay by weight. But it isn't as expensive as the original Japanese stuff, so don't worry. Okay, I'm going to mount it up in the corner here, and this quite handy kind of right angle here, which is going to fit perfectly into the corner. And I haven't really practiced this, so I'm just going to see how we go. We want the most attractive pieces towards you guys. So any kind of boring, less featured pieces, kind of the more simpler shapes, I'll probably use towards the bottom. So there'll be more of a bulking agent. And then we'll put some wood in later. We'll talk about the wood, obviously, in more detail when we do that. So that's a nice corner piece there. Let's put another sort of foundational piece in. So we want something quite flat and boring, maybe at the bottom. So when you're choosing your hardscape, you've got such a great selection at shops like this. You really are sport for choice. I do recommend using the scaping dojos like the sand pits, so you can really get an idea of how you want your scape to look before you buy. And I think the guys here will actually, help you out and come up with some compositions with you, and you can take it home and reset it up. I think you actually sell complete things now, don't you? Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. So, you are really sport for choice now. I mean, when I started the hobby 20 plus years ago, I just have to go to the local garden centre and just see what I could find. But yeah, I don't know how many types of rock you've got now. It'll be 10 types or so. Yeah,
at least 15 now.
15. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, really, really sport for choice. But yeah, choose the hardscape appropriate. A lot of beginner mistakes are not buying enough to start with. I'd always recommend buying more than you need, and then you've got options. And you can always hoard it as well. If you've got enough living space, enough garden space or whatever, you can always, switch it up and just store it temporarily and then come back to it and gradually build up your selection of hardscape over the years. Okay, I think I'll just have a play, really. Okay, this bit's a bit boring. Let's put that at the back. I'll have to come around the front in a minute, I think. Let's see what I'm doing. Okay, I've got some more intricate pieces here. It's got a beautiful kind of strata. We call that the natural lines in there. We call that the strata. So top tip with the strata is try to make it line up with your composition. So we're going to have a triangular layout here, so it makes sense to have that strata kind of flowing in this direction. So we'll just pop that one there. That's going to be on show. So we'll have that, I reckon, just like that. And then the idea is there's going to be hopefully plenty of opportunities here with these gaps between the stones to insert our plants, which obviously we'll talk about later. I get a sense this isn't going to influence the water chemistry. It seems a very dense, hard stone. You can get some like more chalky, limestoney material like a Rio stone, which will boost your hardness and your pH potentially. So bear that in mind. If you do end up using Rio stone, you normally offset that boost in hardness with big water changes. With a high energy aquascape like this, you'd typically be doing at least 50% once a week, and that's going to reset, any increase in hardness or pH will be reset with those water changes. But I don't think this is going to influence water chemistry, do you? No. It's another interesting piece there. What have we got here? Let's have a look around the front. So we're going. Let's try that there. So hardscaping is, I often talk about this, it's such an important part of the aquascaping process. It's the fundamental kind of foundation, really. It's like the backbone of the layout. You can almost think of an aquascape as a human body. The flesh, and then you have the water, which is like the blood. That's a good analogy, isn't it? I like that. Yeah. So start off with a really strong skeleton, and you can have a really strong human. So you can see we're kind of getting that triangular formation quite nicely. Of the strata here running up and then here, so it all kind of converges. The strata here is different. You can see that going there, and that's okay. Adds a little bit of tension. The strata, you ideally want it coming, if you do want to use that tension, you can have them coming at right angles to each other, which looks quite effective. So we can have a play around with that, like so. Okay, I want to put quite a bit more height up here. So let's have a look, see what we've got. Okay, that's not so interesting, but we could, let's have a look. Try that there. Just sort of be careful that you don't allow the rocks to kind of fall onto the glass, obviously, and scratch or break. I kind of want that across a bit more, really. Interesting. Need 3 hands now. This one. Thanks, Roger. Cheers, mate. Yeah, got a bit of wiggle room because we're going to be planting, obviously, and that's going to hide potentially any errors, if you want to call them that. There's a big gap here. We plug that. I wonder if we can use this. We don't necessarily have to use everything. Just hoping for a bit more height there, but we might not need to. Let's have a look. Don't think that's going to work. Let's just try it there. Bit like Jenga now. If I move one, it's all going to come tumbling down. So let's just have a little breather. What do you reckon? Look okay? Yeah. It's good from this angle, isn't it? So you can see it's triangular already. So it's going to, the tank's going to eventually be here. So when visitors come in, it's going to slope up nicely into the distance. Good. Happy with that. Any questions so far? Is anyone scared it's going to all fall down? I think it's okay. I think it's okay. We can glue stuff. We'll be using the glue later probably for the wood because it's going to probably float. We talked about that earlier. But yeah, I think that looks okay. We've got lots of opportunities to enhance the layout, obviously, when we start planting. We're going to use lots of epiphyte plants. These are plants that attach to the rocks and the wood, and hopefully come up with a very cohesive kind of a nice flowing theme. Good. Okay, I'm going to get some wood. Excuse me a moment. See you later. I should go around that way, can't I think? Yeah, can I actually fit round the back there, mate? Can I? I'll go around the back.
Yes, you can, yeah.
That as well. We'll go for that one, yeah, the biggest one. Yeah. So what type is this called?
Centurion.
Centurion.
Yeah, it's quite strong.
Sounds like a strong wood. So this is another Rio product. Centurion wood. Again, this hasn't been used yet in Aquarium Gardens, so excited to get its debut here. And what sort of price point are we looking at these, Dave?
Well, this piece here is 40 quid. I'm holding right now.
That's good.
It's a similar price.
Yeah, that's good value. So it has been soaked, but it's a bit bobby, so we don't want to take the risk of it floating. So we will eventually glue it in position. Oh wow, that's great.
So one guy who's a forester who has a license to collect pieces of log and who's responsible. He goes out and he sees a nice piece, he brings it to the warehouse, and then he gets assessed to see if it's worthwhile.
That's great.
Individual pieces have been chosen by someone who knows the forests, and it's all driftwood that's come down during the rains, been collected in the valleys. So it's a very sustainable source.
That's really good to know because it's not just about it's also about the how far it's travelled by air freight and stuff. We're always conscious about CO2 footprint these days. So to know it's been collected locally. Rio is a Spanish company which Ty works for, and they have quite a new brand, but they have such a great range of hardscape substrates, aquariums, lighting. So do check them out if you get the time. And just a shameless plug, they have helped out Ty and I with Ty's book project quite considerably as well. So you'll see a lot more of their products soon, hopefully, in the book. Okay, I don't know what that looks like from there, but let's have a look. Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it? Let's just have a little play, see if we can make it look even better. Sometimes you get like one piece which is custom kind of designed to fit perfectly. If you can't find that one special piece, you can always use smaller pieces kind of together. Let's just try it that way around, see how that looks.
George, at this stage, when you're playing around with composition, you're thinking about how hardscaping affects flow at this stage building.
Sorry, say that again.
When you're creating a composition now with hardscape,
yeah,
you're thinking ahead of how that might affect the flow when you flood the tank.
The flow in terms of circulation. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Just to sort of repeat what you asked so everyone can hear. Yeah, circulation in aquascaping is really important. So you should consider that with your hardscape. It's quite simple in an aquarium like this. You can have the outlet here, or here. So depending on where the majority of the plants are, you generally want most of the CO2 to hit most of the plant mass, and also ensure that you hopefully get a good all-round circulation. In this tank, I would probably have the outlet on here, so it's going to flow around here. All the CO2 microbubbles will hit the plants here, and hopefully work them way around, and have the inlet of the filter here, so you can create this circular pattern here. Yeah. You kind of want your main priority to be the aesthetic of the layout, and then you can think about the functionality after that, if you know what I mean. I think it looked the best when we started, didn't it? So that wasn't it, I think. How was it? I can't even remember. Like that? We have got multiple pieces, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the final. This. Oh, good job you're here, Dave. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's one piece then. Here we are. Yes. So same wood type. We generally use the same type of wood in Escape. We can. One of the popular techniques, we might do it today actually, is go for some real detail work with much smaller pieces, and they can often be a different type of wood, but because they're so small, it doesn't detract. So if I was doing this at home, you could take a lot longer. You can actually set one layout at one day, have a really good look at it, come back another day, make any changes. It shouldn't be a rushed process. What we're doing, it's a creative process. Get in the flow states. Gnarly. Okay. It does, doesn't it? We could think about that when we named the scape, couldn't we? It's almost like Loch Ness Monster, isn't it? This thing coming up here.
You've got like two
twigs coming out the front. Like
Yeah.
cords.
So thinking about composition, you know, we often use the rule of thirds or golden ratio, where you want your main focal point to be offset by about a third. This is more than, you know, 2/3 this way. This is less than 2/3 this way. So, but because they're kind of both offset, it does look quite balanced. I'm just not sure about this. It's a bit too dominating, isn't it? So. And we have got other pieces of wood outside, actually. Dave, do you want to get something that you think might look? You could just try. Yeah, it's too central, this piece. Oh. Thank you. So I think this is competing with this too much. They're both very vertical. So let's just take that one out. Scissors. Okay, I think this is going to look nice. Yeah, still got that vertical. It's a bit odd, that piece there. Remember, we're going to use plants as well, so they're going to really change the whole kind of flow. Oh, that's better. Now, it does leach a lot of tannins, this wood. It has been pre-soaked, so a lot of those will have come out, but it will more than likely leach in the next kind of few weeks. I think the guys here like to use a lot of chemical media, so Sechem Purigen, carbon, both of them, and then lots of frequent water changes as well.
Yeah, 75% the first week every day.
Every day?
And then we do it every other day for the second week.
Wow.
So we reduce it down to once a week.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that's kind of what I had in my mind, that kind of shape. I think this could have been adjusted a little bit. And we just obviously remember we need to keep that area around the front clear. I'll put the old sand flattener. There we are. Okay, now we need to glue the wood in position. So we can use a special technique. Use a cigarette, you know, rollies, roll-ups, cigarette filter tips. You don't smoke, do you, Dave? And then, do you actually kind of separate them apart, or what do you do?
Get one or two of them.
I've never really done this before.
Wedge it between wood and rock.
And then just pour.
Wherever the contact points are.
Yeah.
Just pour some secret on it.
Is that gonna?
First.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I might need a second pair of hands, Dave, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll come back.
because I don't want this, just to show you that I don't want this main piece of wood touching the glass really, because it's going to just be a nightmare to maintain. So we want at least a little bit so we can get your scraper down there. And then we're looking at all the major contact points, aren't we? So we want to go.
So there's a bit here, for example. If you
Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. This is where gloves could come in handy.
Yeah, I've got loads of gloves somewhere.
Don't worry, it's fine. I actually like getting my hands dirty, but a lot of people would rather use gloves, which is fine. So I'm just kind of splitting them up a little bit to get more kind of surface area, some more kind of opportunities for it to bond. So I reckon
I'll that forward a little bit.
we're going to go in. Oh, in that crack there. Yeah. So use some tweezers actually. Well, you don't want to get glue on your tweezers, do you?
No.
So just wedge it there and then take them out.
Shove it in.
Yeah. I'm all right, mate. Yeah, thank you anyway.
Yeah, I will actually.
Yeah.
Can you just pass that glue down there, mate? That
Right.
one, yeah.
So everything needs to be anchored together, basically, to stop the wood from floating. It has been pre-soaked. It is sort of semi-buoyant. Obviously, the rocks aren't going to float. So if we use them as like an anchor point, and then make sure each piece of wood is kind of glued to each other piece, and then we're almost guaranteed not to have any floaters. And then we can, if you do see the white, the glue turns white as well underwater. It's a good tip to plant around it. You can maybe put some moss on there as well, and that will dry quite quickly, won't it?
It's really, really quick, actually.
Does it create fumes as well?
It's not really.
Do you ever get that?
Sometimes depends on the colour. Depends on the
Yeah.
glue, but it's not with this one.
That's good. And do you sell that glue, that particular type? Because that's quite a big bottle, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't sell this. We just get any normal like liquid super glue rather than the gel stuff, and it soaks into the filter process a bit easier.
Okay, cool. A bit more.
The bit down there.
Do you want one or two tips? I reckon?
Just one.
Yeah. I've also used, makeup removal cotton pads. Not that I wear makeup, only on a Thursday, but you can, you can sort of tear them apart and use those as well.
I'll stick one under this piece where that rock is, so I should lift it up.
Am I in the right place?
If you let that's okay. Yeah.
Any questions while we're doing this? I know it's a bit quiet. Centurion Wood from Rio. Rio.echo. Is that available around Europe, Rio? Oh, wow. Worldwide.
That bit we're going to see, George, but we'll
put some plants around that, yeah. In for time. Cool.
Where's this touch up here? Is it touch there?
Yeah, it does actually, yeah. Yeah.
That's it. those tweezers? Very handy.
It's really nice wood, isn't it?
It's really like gnarly textures, got the line there.
Yeah. Nice and dark as well.
Some brilliant sort of shaded opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good to use light and shade in aquascapes. A lot of people want to just assume that you just flood it with light and everything should be lit up, but it's really good to use contrasts. You know, and we've got a lot of plants now that you can grow in low lighting and shaded areas. Anubias, Crypts, Bucophalandra, they all do well with low lighting. Ferns tend to, in my experience, tend to prefer brighter light if you want that nice compact growth. I'll tell you what we need to do as well is actually, because it's triangular, let's actually have a gap here as well. Sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to get you to do all the work. So when did you open the store? Was it 2016 you opened up?
Yeah, 2016, yeah. Start selling online a bit with the website before that.
Yeah.
And then always the eye on getting the shop up and running as well.
Yeah.
And then just started in this unit, this room we're in now. Now we're in the next room, and
Yeah.
next room is where I sort of expanded.
Is this anyone's first time visit here? Yeah. Yeah, if you haven't looked yet, there's another room next door with all the hardscape, and yeah, very impressive. But yeah, we've been mates, what, 7 years now? Yeah.
Didn't deliberately open the shop. But
I can't believe it's like it literally 4 kilometres, yeah, 2.5 miles away. Yeah, I'll often run past.
Fate.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, destiny.
You not think of opening your shop up, George?
No, wouldn't want to compete with him. Yeah. No, my joy is the creativity of it all. You know, I love this process. I love communicating it to people. You know, whether it's a live workshop or YouTube or books. It's just something I'm really grateful to have found aquascaping. You know, something I connect with quite deeply. You know, yeah, it's such a unique hobby. It combines so many disciplines, and it really helps ground me. You know, when if I'm going through any kind of tricky times or challenges or anxieties, I can always rely on my aquascapes, you know, and just the simple act of trimming a plant or maintaining, doing a water change or feeding the fish, they always lifts my mood, you know. And there's something really enjoyable about the discipline as well, you know, having that structure around water changes, around trimming, fertilizing the tank, feeding the fish. I think it's really important to have some kind of structure and discipline in your life, and I think aquascaping can help do that in a really nice way. It's not like a horrible job, you know. And actually, even sometimes people perceive a water change or dealing with algae as a horrible thing, but actually, even that you can really learn to enjoy, because you get to experience an issue, and then just by confronting it head on, dealing with it, being patient with it, and then seeing the end result is hopefully it's kind of fixed, or at least it's better. It gives you a sense of achievement, you know. How are we doing, mate?
Yeah.
Have we done this big one yet?
Done it there. Is there another contact point? Is that somewhere?
There's one. Oh, that's that.
Yeah, there is a bit over
It's a different piece. Yeah. Maybe do one here in between the two pieces of wood.
Push it up.
when you actually, and I've gone really quiet because we're kind of in the zone, and that's a really cool thing, you know, when you're actually doing the escaping process, you actually get in what we call the flow state, where there's nothing else on your mind. You know, it's obviously when I'm doing it here, I'm doing it kind of as a thing for you guys, but when you're on your own at home, then just really use it as an opportunity to disconnect from all of the modern life stuff, and yeah, just you and that thing that you're focusing on. You really feel the present moment, you know, and there's no like worrying about the future or regretting the past. You're just in the moment, the present moment, and that's all that really exists, really, at the end of the day. The future isn't here yet, and the past is already gone, so just enjoy the moment. Isn't that right, Dave?
Yeah, it is. I think that's probably one of the most nice things about aquascaping.
Yeah.
Relaxing, got your job, you got your life, you know, and this is just something you can.
Something different, something it's just you. It's for you, you know.
It's not for anybody else. It's for you.
Yeah,
for you.
and other people can enjoy the net result of it, but whilst you're actually creating it.
It's like any hobby, though, isn't it? That's what hobbies are there for. They're there to take you away from something, or just you know, stretch your creativity in another way, or.
That's why they call it a pastime, don't they? Because you're passing the time. Yeah. Maybe a bit here, Dave, at the front.
Yeah.
Another one in there. It's a bit. Yeah, it's definitely different, isn't it? It's what we've got in the shop already.
Yeah, it's really bold and wiggly and
structured. Like a Centurion.
Like this bit is like massive.
Like a tree, yeah.
Bold, right at the front of the tank.
Yeah.
Where do you want any glue up there?
I think we need to just put these two together here, maybe. Put another.
Oh, yeah, no one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you think that's enough, mate? It's all the main points.
If there's any other contact points, which any more the better, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's like one contact point, that bit will pivot.
Yeah.
But if there's like three,
yeah,
it's going to be really solid.
Nice bit. There's a nice easy bit there.
Yeah. That bit is just touching that stone right at the bottom.
Yeah.
Get down
See that bit there?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh yeah.
Hard to get down there, but
that's all right. I can manage it. Hey, try that, mate. Actually, it's all hollow all the way through. Just thinking we could like have like a terrestrial plant maybe.
Yeah, that's something growing out.
Yeah.
Like a crypt or something.
Yeah.
Remember that crypt that was growing out in 1500?
Yeah.
Massive.
I think did you
Was
put
it
some
a bit down
glue?
there?
Yeah, can you see it?
down
Yeah.
there. Yeah, that's nice.
Okay. All good.
I think so.
Cool, man. If it floats, it's your fault then, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Give it a wiggle. Seems that bit I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
What do you think? Another bit because do you reckon we could get? Is there any small stones?
Yeah, that's a good shout. Wedge a small one in between there. Yeah. Just doesn't even have to be the same type of stone.
Like a bowl.
Yeah.
Got any,
Tom or whoever.
got any small like venom boulder? The small ones.
About 2-inch diameter. 50 millimeters to layman. I'm talking two languages, like imperial and metric.
Covers it all.
Yeah. I reckon we need a bit more filter down there, mate. You see here.
Yep.
Actually, oh yeah, might as well now it's there. So it'll go, yeah, I think wedge it down there, the little boulder.
Yeah. Just need something down there.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Good, mate. That'll do. Yeah, that's fine, mate. Thank you. Yeah, so actually a bit smaller than that, I think. Let's get these out of the way. There we go. Yeah, mate. Those. What sort of size do you want? Where's it going to go?
Just down there.
Okay.
Just, there's nothing really going in it. Maybe a bit bigger. Any bigger?
Yeah, yeah. Sort of size?
Yeah. Touching those, yeah, it's a foot.
Oh, it's come off there. If I hold that there like that, fuck, that's come off as well. Is everyone having fun? Chat amongst yourselves for a bit.
I like this process.
Yeah, it's building, isn't it? We like building stuff.
Yeah.
Humans. Better than destroying stuff, anyway. I think we need another bit there. You ready?
Yeah.
Just there, it's just come off there.
Another bit.
I'll get another filter bit.
I've got loads down here now.
Okay, cool.
Can you just wedge one between those two? Ah, stop my finger down.
Yeah,
Okay.
a bit of wool. Yeah. How's the kids? Are they better now?
They're better than they were yesterday. I'm not though.
Oh, you got a cold as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, Emma's got a cold.
Just going around, everyone's got it.
Yeah.
They didn't act like they were ill though. They were just like kids are like.
Yeah.
Builds their immune system anyway.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Cool, man. And then this stone here, mate.
What the nuts? Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Get some. I haven't put the wool
Oh,
in.
yeah,
I haven't
that's
put the
cool.
wool in. Yeah. Can you reach it? Because I can come around the back if that's easier.
Yeah, around the back. Yes.
Yeah, there's ADA Power Sand M. Is that right?
Yep.
That's the bottom layer. Then we've got Rio Onion. So it's like onion with an E at the beginning. And then we're going to top it off with Aquascaping soil and Tropica soil powder. It's really worthwhile investing in a good substrate system because it does provide long-term nutrients for your plants, obviously the root feeders. It also has other benefits, like most soils will actually reduce the hardness and the pH slightly, which benefits most tropical fish and plants. When you're ready, mate, there's just where the tweezers are. So you can get away with just using the soil on its own, and this is no problem. But we're using these base layers just to add a bit more kind of aeration, a bit more kind of long-term nutrition. And some soils will kind of decompose quicker than others. You can get up to a couple of years lifetime at least out of the soil. And the nutrient content of the soil will last a lot longer if you're regularly dosing liquid fertilizers. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So the plants will take in nutrients from their roots, but also from their leaves. So we dose liquid fertilizers to feed the plant leaves, and then we have a nutritious substrate to feed the roots, of course. Epiphyte plants, they obviously they take in all their nutrient water, so they'll benefit from more kind of liquid fertilizer. But that said, most epiphyte plants are quite slow growing and easy, so they don't actually need that much nutrients. When you've got an aquascape running in the really long term and you're using a wide variety of different plants, you'll notice some will thrive more than others. And you can get some surprises, like some may consider like Riccardia, as a very slow growing kind of, not very in need of nutrients, or quite kind of slow and steady. But it actually can kind of take over. In fact, there's a few scapes in here where you can see it kind of starting to creep over. In that one over there, it's actually overtaken the hairgrass. And we were chatting about this the other day, Dave, weren't we?
Yeah.
If you look at Riccardia, for those that don't know what Riccardia is, it's like a coral pellia. It's like you see it in this one here. It's like the really kind of compact dark green moss. It's actually a liverwort. It's not a moss, but grows very similar. But because it has such a huge surface area, and actually it's quite a dark green, so it actually has a lot of chlorophyll. So that's probably why it needs a lot more nutrients, I'd say. And in this scape here, for instance, you can see the Hygrophila pinnatifida. is actually a little bit hungry. You've got some pinholes in the leaves. It's quite pale, but you'll see the other plants are doing really well. So this is a really good example of like observing your aquascapes in the long term. You know, seeing what plants do well, seeing what plants don't do so well. You can always adjust the fertilizers as appropriate. So if a plant does start to look pale, you know, getting holes in the leaves, then a simple solution would be to add more liquid fertilizer. So many great brands out there, all in one fertilizers, so you don't need to necessarily tailor the nutrient profile too much. You use APT here.
Yeah, APT-free, yeah.
And it's quite concentrated, is it?
It is really concentrated. Yeah, it lasts, bottle would last on this tank about 2-3 months.
Yeah.
So like 5-6 pumps a day.
Okay. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's all about, a lot of it is about this hobby, aquascaping it's about the creation process like we're doing here, but it's also about the observation in the long term of the plants, you know, and rather than a lot of folk, especially in the saltwater hobby, it's very important to monitor those water parameters, and they will have loads of different test kits to do that. Whereas in my mind, the nature aquarium hobby, the aquascaping hobby, the planted aquarium hobby is a lot about actually you observing, you know, with your own eyes and your own intuition. And you can just, after a while, after a couple of years maybe of growing plants, you can just get a sense of what plants are looking healthy, what aren't looking so healthy. And then just by observation, testing and adjusting with your own kind of methodology, you can really kind of tailor the aquascape into something really quite beautiful. But it takes time, you know, and it's a hobby that teaches you patience and kind of a delayed gratification. You know, you're not necessarily wanting to create something like this or like this, you know, from day one. You know, you actually have to put the work in, you know, do those water changes, add those fertilizers, do the trimming. And these are all parts of the process that you should hopefully enjoy, because actually that's what makes the hobby special in my mind. It isn't necessarily about that final product of that beautiful thing. It's actually about how you got there and enjoying that, because that's actually day to day what you can enjoy. You don't necessarily enjoy that final product for the long term, but you do enjoy those actions that you take to get to that final product. Does that make sense? So process over outcome, basically, that's what we're talking about. You know, when you do have a lot of folk that are really into the contests, you know, and that is all about creating that final product, but they have to go through the process to get there as well. So there's nothing against contests, and you know, the really high level contests, the International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest, which is run by ADA, is regarded as like the ultimate, you know, Grand Prix, if you like, of aquascaping. And you'll get to see some really beautiful, crazy designs. And in my mind, it's a little bit like the concept cars show. You know, you get these really wacky car designs, and some of those design elements leak into the mainstream like hobby. You know, and it's the same with aquascaping. There's a big kind of at the moment, or in the last few years, there's a big focus on diorama aquascaping, which is, you know, trying to get that terrestrial landscape scene and putting it in the aquarium. And I don't actually connect with it that much, because it just makes me think it's a bit weird, you know, seeing these underwater trees and these fish basically look like birds, you know, and it's all a bit like, in my mind, not what the original kind of nature aquarium concept, which is what Mano kind of brought into the world. And that's more about actually using nature as a lesson, like scenes from underwater that you'd actually witness, and then using some kind of design elements from outside of water, you know, using a lot of rocks and wood in certain different compositions. But the whole essence is trying to recreate this underwater natural scene. And I personally connect with that style a lot more. And that's the style you'll see here in the store. We don't really have any dioramas here, do we?
Not at the moment. No, we had a tree one once, and then
Yeah.
we've got the sort of mountainy. It's quite evergreen, but
Yeah.
not really a proper diorama. No.
I mean, the nearest thing you could say is this Iwagumi layout here. So it doesn't really look like a mountain scene, but it's got this essence. You know, he's using these big rocks, of course. But aquascaping is all about your own, personal preference. What connects with you? What do you like the look of? There's nothing wrong with looking at other people's work and being inspired, and you can even copy other people's work. You're going to be guaranteed to create something, hopefully, that you really like. And then as you do that, you gain more confidence in growing the plants and managing algae, maintaining the plants. And then you can use those lessons to build confidence, and then you can start to really, stretch your own creativity, start creating, different types of layout. And eventually, if you really get into the hobby, over the years, you'll start developing your own style. And that might be, really unique, or it might be in line with, like Takashi Amano. That's who I still regard as the ultimate inspiration, really.
One more bit and then I'm done.
Thanks, mate. Sorry, you're just doing all the work now, aren't you? I was going to sit down for a rest. Oh,
You did the talking.
yeah,
Don't mind.
cool. If you've never heard of Takashi Amano, I recommend you look into him. He sadly passed away in 2015. They still have the big display in Portugal, in Lisbon, Florestas Submersas, and it's 160,000 litres altogether. And I went there in 2019, I think, and with my wife. And actually, I don't mind admitting, when I went in there, I started crying, and it was just so poignant because this was his last creation, that he came up with before he died. And when you go in there, there's very minimal ambient lighting. The only thing you see is the aquarium, and it's as you walk in. If you walk in this way, the aquarium is shaped like this. It's like a U shape. So you've got a big, huge panoramic thing here, and then you've got two things coming this way, and you walk in and you're completely immersed literally in this aquascape. And there's music that's been composed specifically for the scape, and it's very mellow, it's very kind of chill, and it's just fantastic, really is. And I get the chills thinking about it now. You just really feel that connection with the nature, underwater nature, and it's on such a big scale, it's almost overwhelming. And I think that's why I started crying, because it was just this beautiful experience, and you really kind of felt the spirit. I don't know if anyone's into spirituality, but you just felt that essence of Amano there. I mean, he didn't actually create it himself. He had a team of guys doing it, but it was absolutely his DNA that's throughout that aquascape. So if you do get an opportunity to go over there, it's still running. It was only meant to be a temporary exhibit for 18 months, but it's now, that's a good few years now, isn't it? 2015 it was created, just before he died. So yeah, 8 years, it's still running now. And they used to have, I know I'm rambling, but it's great. They used to have a team of Japanese guys, 2 Japanese guys from ADA that lived there on a 3-month rota. And when they closed it down to the public in the evening, these guys would actually work on the scape for 4 hours through the night every evening for 3 months. And then another couple of guys would come over from Japan, and they do this rota. And they had like proper scuba kit on and everything, because the tank is massive. It's like 3 meters high or so, 40 meters long in total. And the plants just, you can't get your head around it just talking about it, but they grow to their potential. We're talking, I mean, these look like tiny nano tanks compared to this thing, and the plants stay relatively small, but the lilies are like absolutely ginormous, like you'd see in nature. And these Amazon swords, and the crypts are like literally meters high. And it's just another level. And you just get such a deep appreciation for what this hobby's about. So if you get the opportunity, definitely go. Have you gone yet?
No, I haven't done a lot of travelling. I've been travelling for ages, but I really want to go.
Yeah. I'd recommend it.
Yeah.
And there is a video on my YouTube channel about it, so check it out. Okay. Is it good?
Yeah, I was just going to sprinkle some soil over for you on those bits.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's top tip. We've got some bright white, ugly things here, which we don't want to see. So top tip, you can actually use the soil powder here. This is Tropica soil powder. And because the glue is still a little bit wet, sprinkle that soil powder on, that's going to obviously attach to the white and then just completely disguise it. Good. And we're ready for, well, when you've done that, we'll put more soil, yeah.
A couple of bags behind you, get some more if you need it.
It should be okay, I think. Because we've got quite, oh, we'll see. So here we go.
Yeah, scape of soil, regular size behind you.
Yeah.
The Wazo stuff.
Yeah. Roger, will you pass the scissors, please, mate? Cheers. Okay, quite a new product from Awaze. Scape of soil, very similar in composition to the other soils that we know and love. I've had good results with it so far. I've been growing some plants at home in it, and they do a brown soil as well. This is like a more of a very dark brown or black even, but they do like a medium brown as well, which can be quite attractive depending on what look you're going for. It can potentially leach ammonia like most soils can. So this isn't an issue because usually we're doing large frequent water changes in the early stages, or at least the first sort of 3-4 weeks. This will dilute any ammonia, and obviously we don't want to be adding any livestock whilst that ammonia level is detectable. But good thing about ammonia in a brand new tank is it's going to help seed the filter. Hopefully most of you know about the nitrogen cycle. You need that ammonia to kickstart that bacteria, and that's going to get your filter mature. And then as your filter matures, you're going to get less algae. You can go through early stages of algae. Algae is a huge topic worth a workshop on its own. But what I'll say is, it's really hard to say this, but basically nuisance algae is pretty much your own fault, basically. If you're not doing enough maintenance, you haven't invested in the right plants or enough of them, you haven't got the right conditions, then the result will be nuisance algae. A little bit of algae is absolutely fine, and how much algae you tolerate, that's up to you. Some people can't stand any at all. Good luck with that. But a little bit of algae is fine. I still get a little bit of blackbeard algae in my big tank, and I can live with that because it doesn't look unsightly. You don't notice it from where you're viewing the tank from. You notice it if you get super close. And it's algae is a part of nature. It's part of a natural system. We're dealing with water, light, and nutrients, and algae is inevitable. But nuisance algae is generally a result of not enough plant growth. Algae's biggest enemy is a really healthy plant growth. Whoops, and then loads of it. That's why we try to plant with a lot of fast growers if we can at the early stages. And those plants are going to help suck up those nutrients and fight off the algae. Another really great way to help avoid algae is the use of big frequent water changes. They're a lot of work, and arguably, in today's age, we don't want to be wasting water if possible. I actually like to water my garden with old aquarium water. The plants love it. House plants love it as well. So you can reuse it if possible. Let's go on the front.
Just switch it around.
Yeah, please, mate. Oh. Come on. If we just pour it here, it should. So this is a regular kind of size soil. The diameter of the grains are around 2 to 3 millimeters. And then we will top off with the Tropica powder, which is about 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter. And that's generally much better for finer rooted plants, especially like the ones who grow, and the carpeting plants. Have we got enough at the front, mate? Bit more? Yeah. Bit more here. All of it. Can't actually see what I'm doing. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Just put some down here.
That light so bright, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite bright, yeah. Whereabouts, mate? Oh, my arms. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, and then yeah, the powder.
Powder will do double that up, won't it?
And pour some in there as well. So I'm actually going to plant the whole footprint of the aquarium. A lot of techniques will use like open cosmetic sands here, which is a really great way to have an effective contrast. But I really like planting heavily, and we're going to use. We'll talk about the plants in more detail later. But we'll go for a nice carpet, lots of slower growing, easy plants. Well, that's actually against the glass now, but
It's only that. It's only that bit. So yeah, rays will get in there.
okay, yeah, okay, that's cool. Okay, right, let's put the powder in. So a lot of people ask how long the substrate lasts, the soils. Like I think I said earlier, that if you're dosing liquid fertilizers regularly, the nutrient content of the soil will last a lot longer, because the plants will actually take in nutrients through their leaves as well as. Can you just sort of guide me, mate? Is it?
Chuck it on the glass, basically.
Yeah. The plants will like to take in nutrients through the leaves, and so they won't be drawing as much through their roots. So if we really kind of spoil the plants, you know, with nutrients through the leaves and their roots, so use a good quality liquid fertilizer, good quality soil, and then you really give the plants what they need. Obviously enough light. The light really depends on what kind of plants you want to grow, what look you want. You know, generally the more light you have, the more compact the growth, the more colour you'll get from your plants, especially red plants.
Here you go, Tom, you got a paintbrush. Bit more in this area as well.
So mate, whereabouts?
Right in the middle there, yeah.
Say when?
That's it.
So you can see, if we had that power sand at the front of the tank, you'd see these kind of, not ugly necessarily, but these kind of white stones, which would not look as kind of neat as that. Good. We need to pick. Do we actually need to pick the plants, I guess, don't we?
Yeah, we've got
Okay.
quite a few put aside for you. We need to start prepping them as well, so
Yeah.
we need to think about which ones we do first.
Yeah, cool. Let's do. We've got a spray bottle,
Yeah, have a spray bottle.
and yeah, I think we'll do the soil plants first and epiphytes at the end.
So start with the carpet. And
Yeah, nice layer.
Sonata?
Yeah,
Yeah.
10. How many pots do you reckon? 10 pots.
Yeah. Tom, can you start with the Granata? 10 pots and see where choose
Crypt, Albedo Brown, Parva.
Parva work nicely in this light open area.
Yeah.
Do like brown breeder.
Albedo Brown, Willesii. Got any Willesii? Yeah. Ty, can you grab some plants for us, mate? You want Crypt Albedo Brown, Willesii, and Parva.
You get like three of each for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers, mate. So the guys are going to get some plants for us, and we're going to plant the main kind of open area here with Marcellea crenata, which is in the Tropica 1-2 grow pots. I'll talk about those in more detail when we get them. But they are, Marcellea crenata is not actually used in the store at the moment.
Not at the moment, no.
So nice to show off a new plant. I actually learnt the other day, it's actually a fern.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. But that's what it says on the Tropica website.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's good.
But it's a carpeting fern, so it produces runners, and it will eventually create a nice carpet. Has kind of like a little kind of stem and a little kind of round leaf at the end. We've got the Husuta going here.
Yeah.
So it's quite similar to this, but with a smaller and more of a darker green colour. Quite slow growing, easy to manage, and yeah, will look great in here. And then we're going to add a little bit of extra kind of texture with some Cryptocoraini parva. This is the smallest crypt that we do here, I think. We've got the Tier Hobbit, maybe.
Yeah, parva's small. Actually, yeah.
I will plant that intermittently, maybe around like these pieces of wood and the stone here. We've got Willisii, which is similar to parva, but it goes a lot taller, up to sort of 10, 15 centimeters tall. And then we have the Albida Brown, which is relatively short, kind of grow that tall maybe. And has a beautiful brown color, and under good light actually produce these really interesting kind of speckledy textures as well. None? Okay. Willisii? Yeah, Willisii, please, mate. Yeah. Five pots of Willisii, if we've got it.
Did you say Hobbit, Steve? Yeah, please.
Yeah, Hobbit would be nice. So yeah, that will be around here. There's open area here, and then I think.
So if the Crenata's a fern, you
Yeah.
can put it on.
Yes, yeah, we do. Yeah, good idea. So actually, we're going to try something different with the Crenata. We're going to try and sort of plant it as an epiphyte, because it's a fern. So that's how it grows in nature. I hope it is a fern. It does definitely says it's a fern on Tropica. So if it's not a fern, then it's just there. Yeah. So we're going to plant. Yeah. We've got the Tropica app. Yeah. Has anyone got the Tropica app on their phone? No? Yes. Yeah. Can I borrow your phone? Yeah. Cheers, mate. Do you want to get it open for? Yeah. Cheers, mate. So the idea is, if it is a fern, it will grow as an epiphyte, because if you give it enough nutrients, it will grow anywhere, right? So I'm going to plant it actually amongst the wood here, and hopefully it will create like a trail running down here into the full carpet. And I think that will look really nice, add to this kind of natural flow that we have going up here. And then another plant we're going to use is the Schismatoglottis Pratoi. Yep. Do we have that in a pot, or is it in there? Yeah, okay, cool. And we'll do a similar with that. The great thing about the Schismatoglottis, have we got any already anywhere?
In Tom's, there's a little bit in the front.
Okay, you see it here, it looks like a Nubius. It can actually be planted into the soil, but also used as an epiphyte. So we'll have it into the soil at various points here, but then also have it as an epiphyte. So it will grow from the soil up into the wood. Thanks, mate. What's your name?
Farley.
Farley, nice to meet you, Farley. Thank you. So, oh no. Yeah, sorry, mate.
What about like something emergent out of the tank?
Yeah, maybe.
Hydrophila.
Oh yeah, we're gonna use hydrophila. This small fern comes from Asia. That's what it says. Did you know that?
Philippines, I think.
Yeah. Where it often grows in rice fields.
Wow.
So this is the Tropica app for anyone that doesn't have it already, available on iOS and Android. And you can look at all the plant profiles on there. There's videos, inspirational layouts, some great articles on there by some guy called George. Cheers, Farley. So yeah, download it today. It's free. Okay, we've got our Marsilea. Cheers. What are we doing for time? Okay, good. So we've split it into individual portions. I'm probably going to split it a little bit more. Comes in the Tropica 1-2 grow pots. So these are grown in Danish Tropica's own laboratories. Absolutely fascinating place. And you've been there, haven't you?
Yep, a couple of times.
Literally hundreds of thousands of pots, all grown in sterile conditions. So no algae, no pest snails, no disease, already growing in its submerged state. So a lot of plants that you buy are grown outdoors, but out of water in greenhouses. and the plant has to go through transition. So it has to adapt from its out of water state to its underwater state. Now, the great thing about these is they're already adapted to growing underwater, so they'll start growing straight away.
Soil wet or dry?
I think dry. I normally plant dry. Are you normally a wet man, yeah?
I'll go with it.
Horses for courses. So you could probably get 5 to 10 portions quite easily out of each pot. Split it up, rinse off the. It's grown in like a special nutrient-rich and growth hormone-rich liquid, which you really want to kind of rinse off if possible. It can trigger algae. So yeah, rinse it off in fresh tap water.
There we go.
Yeah, all around the open areas. Yeah, cheers, mate. Oh, actually, leave a little bit around here.
Open area there.
Yeah, just sort of all the way up to the edge. Yeah, cool. And just planting is so easy. Get a decent pair of tweezers. You know, I recently bought my first ever pair of ADA, which is very fancy. But they are a joy to use. You know, these are tools that you're using for your hobby. You know, and it's worthwhile investing in decent tools. You know, and they'll last you a lifetime if you look after them. If you don't plant into the Rio Onion. Yeah. So this is another therapeutic part of the process. You know, you get into the flow state. There's just you, your pincets, and all your tweezers and your plant. You know, you're really connecting with it. You're feeling it. You can. It's a really lovely thing. You know, you're planting into that soil. That soil is going to feed the plant. You're going to watch that plant grow. You know, it's all down to you. You know, you're the kind of creator here, and it's a really kind of joyous thing to experience. You know, and just don't take it for granted. You know, it's a really special hobby. You know, really lucky to have it in our lives. You know, I think Amano says creating nature is the ultimate luxury, and you know, we have a beautiful store here where you can see, you know, the final result, if you like. But like I say, you know, think about the process of doing it rather than just enjoying that final picture. So I think we're using 10 pots altogether.
10 pots so far.
Yeah.
I'll get a few more.
If you are on a tight budget and you wanted to make the plants go a bit further, you can just split them up into even more portions. You know, there's probably even that little clump there. You could probably split that up into 20 individual plants if you could be bothered. I did a few years ago now, probably 2010. I want to say 2012. Yeah, 10, 11 years ago. I did. Do you remember the 1 pot challenge? Yeah. So I had one pot of Monte Carlo, Micranthemum Monte Carlo, and I planted a Niwagumi like this here, 60 centimetre, with just 1 pot. I think I got 600 or so individual tiny plants out of that 1 pot, and spent about 8 hours doing it. But it, you know, it's just like I just went into like Zen mode, and it was just sat there, just, you know, had some music on. And yeah, just like a really lovely process. Don't rush it. You know, don't rush these things, because what are you rushing it for? There's no. For me, you know, it's the joy is actually doing this kind of thing. You know, you don't want to be rushing it, because you kind of. Why don't we want to rush it, Dave?
It comes with a confidence thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You just try to get the plants in. And
Yeah, like you're worried. Yeah, it's like.
Get more confident. You take your time.
Yeah, and you can let. Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you. It's like a meditation, you know, and you can really switch off from the outside world, which can be quite stressful. You know, you switch the news on, and it's just all bad news, isn't it? You know, it's like war in Ukraine, energy crisis, everything's on strike, you know. But does it actually affect you, you know, personally so much? Probably not, you know. And so just try not to worry about it, and try to sort of just focus on something more creative, something more joyful, you know, like your hobby, because that's where, you know, That's where the joy is. It isn't in consuming this mainstream media. I'm not going to go. I don't want to go on a rant on mainstream media now. But just enjoy the nature. You know, we're so, as humans, as modern humans, a lot of us are very disconnected from nature. You know, and arguably you could say, yeah, these aren't really nature, but they represent nature, and they're an essence of nature, and these are natural living things that we have a responsibility to care for. You know, we have a responsibility to care for ourselves, you know, and it is like a level of what we're doing today is like self-care, you know, as part of something that can bring you immense joy, satisfaction, frustration, you know, and, you know, you can get frustrated, you know, you might get a plant that's not growing so well, or you might get some algae issues, or you might get a fish that might jump out. But these are just opportunities to learn, to grow from, you know.
I see it as a challenge that as well, because it can put you off the hobby as well when something goes wrong. Like you get algae or melting plants, something like that.
Yeah.
But so what? It goes wrong, but that's part of the fun for me. And if you learn from it and you learn how to fix it,
then
just don't do that again.
And
the next scape will be better.
Yeah, I mean, I confess, when I started the hobby, if I got algae issues, I would like want to strip the whole thing down and start again, you know. But actually, the real learning goes through, you know, treating that issue, you know, properly. You know, do I need to do more water changes? Do I need to add more plants? Do I need to change my lighting? And the only way you'll learn that is by doing it. Is by failing, making mistakes, and learning from them. You know, there's no. He who has never made a mistake hasn't done much, you know, basically, isn't it?
I'm still learning. Obviously, we're all learning, but I'm still learning right now, even with the latest scape.
Yeah.
You were gaming.
Yeah, I've had some issues with that.
So
yeah,
that's got LT hydropiper in there. We've had some melt.
Yeah.
I think it's on the bounce back, but there are patches where it's melted.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a few things to try and fix it, but for me, that's like, it's difficult because it's got to look good for the shop.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time.
But you can use that as a lesson for the customers.
At the same time, it's something to pass on to customers. So.
And I think it's good for the customers to see that not everything is perfect.
Yeah.
Because it can be a little bit off-putting, I guess. You know, and a lot of YouTubers will create these amazing escapes, and you know, you'll never see them fail. And they do fail, then you know they fail because you'll never see that escape again. But yeah, lean into the mistakes. Don't try not to shy away from them. That's where the learning is. That's where the growth happens. Well, you're planting quite dense, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just in auto mode.
Yeah. I'm with you, mate. Can always get more plant. How many did you get? Loads.
There's 10 pots, but probably might. Depends how dense the front will be at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we will need a few more, mate.
You do another half dozen, Tom. Actually.
Yeah.
You can start with 3, actually, Tom. Okay. Cheers.
So we are planting a lot of plants in here. Like I said, you not necessarily need this many. You could split them up into more portions, but we want to get this, you know, quite a full plant look straight away. But if you're doing this at home, you could probably get away with maybe half, a third of them. Just split them up into more portions. Take your time. Keep them wet as well. Keep them moist. We've got a spray mister there. Some species are more prone than others to drying out. You know, particularly risky is Bulbitis, so try not to let that dry out. Echinodorus as well. So if you have a mature scape and you're doing a water change and you're exposing these plants, they've already adapted to their underwater conditions. So if they do dry out, you can potentially really harm them. So we tend to do at least 50% water changes in like a high energy system. So you've got the potential there to expose your plants to the air. So do have your spray mister handy to stop those plants from drying out too much. Not such an issue with brand new plants, especially plants that have been grown hydroponically that are adapted to the out of water. They're going to be okay whilst you're planting, not to be sprayed too much. But these are 1-2 grow, so these actually are kind of adapted to grow underwater, so we will actually give them a bit of a spray in a moment.
Just going back to the planting density thing. Well, hang on. Going back to that, and the reason why we plant really, really densely is to minimise the risk of algae, and it is more expensive. But when you can save time and money from the start by avoiding algae,
Yeah.
because it goes back to your old saying, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
It saves you spending more money and time, particularly time and annoyance, trying to fix an issue. So plant mats is just a tool against algae.
Yeah.
It is more expensive, but it
I
might
see
be
lots of
cheaper in the
people
long
that
run.
want that try to
Save.
skimp on the plants,
Yeah.
but then end up spending loads of money on potions to try to cure
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, we're talking about preventative maintenance rather than corrective maintenance. So we want to be fixing any issues before they occur. Planting densely at the beginning, hopefully using some fast growers as well. If you think about plants and algae, always in competition with each other. So the more plants we have, the healthier those plants are, the less chance of algae you get. And you need to think about creating the right environment for the plants. So easy plants, you can almost grow it with no CO2 injection necessarily. Excuse me. Not much light. Not many fertilizers. You could even get away with regular sort of sand or gravel substrate. And this is often a beginner's entry level into the hobby. But even in those sort of situations, you still want to plant densely. You still want to cover hopefully at least 2/3 of your substrate. Have lots of epiphytes ideally, and big water changes, especially at the beginning of an aquascape's life. This is going to help prevent algae. I don't actually know why big water changes help. I think in a soil system, there's a lot of kind of excess nutrients that are leached from the soil, which can trigger algae, like ammonia, for instance. So the big water changes help there. But the only thing that should limit you from doing more water changes is the time it takes and the potential sustainability. How much actual water do you want to be using? But in general, in a system like this, you want to be changing at least 50% of the water every day for the first week or so. And then for the second week, I suggest every other day. And then for the third week, every third day. And after 4 weeks or so, you can go to like one water change a week. What are you doing? What do you do a week on these?
We do 75%.
Once a week?
Yeah, once a week.
Yeah. Okay.
We rely on the stability as well for that, because we don't test water for anything, but we rely on stability just from changing the water every week, because the water coming out the tap is going to be relatively similar every week.
Yeah.
So we can almost rely on that rather than our test kits.
Because that's resetting everything, isn't it?
Any accumulation that week, and these are like full speed aquariums that are producing.
Yeah.
Any plants are growing and releasing stuff into the water that you just need to.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Just
So
every week.
People just assume it's the fish and the shrimp and the snails that are producing waste, but it's actually the plants produce waste as well. And the higher energy system you have, and the more light you have, the more nutrients, the more CO2 you have, the faster those plants are growing and the more waste they're producing. And in general, we just call that organic waste. And if we have an excess of organic waste, that's a huge algae trigger. So we need to dilute that organic waste with these water changes. In addition to water changes, we can use special filter media. So you like your Seachem Purigen?
Yeah, Seachem Purigen, Seachem Matrix Carbon.
Do you use that all the time or just at the beginning?
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah, just when it was like a...
Wow.
Something goes wrong.
Expensive business, this, isn't it?
Yeah. We only use 100 ml bags, actually. We don't use too much.
Okay.
It's about £12 a bag. Lasts a long time.
Okay. And do you bleach? Because you can recharge Purigen, can't you, with bleach? Do you do that?
No, it's often start off with good intentions.
Yeah.
But then think,
I'll just get a new one because it's just there on the shelf. Yeah, and you're not paying, are you?
Even at home.
Yeah.
I
just get new.
bleach at home.
Yeah.
And then I think,
I'm really curious as to what the actual product is. Like,
Weird, isn't it?
yeah, I can't find any. Obviously, it's patented, but it is really. See, Campurigen is a good product. It does really make your water crystal clear.
Goes really well on tannins. Like it will get the tannins out of this wood.
Yeah.
As well as the water changes.
Yeah, yeah. And do you put that in like your top layer or you of the filter?
Yeah, just below the orange sponge in the biomaster, but it'll always go on the last stage of the filtration, basically.
Yeah.
How you feel it's configured.
Right, I'm just thinking about. It's going to be dark round here, so the Cronata is actually a medium category plant. For those that don't know, Tropica come in three kind of difficulty levels: green, which is easy; orange, which is medium; and red is advanced. So this is a medium category, so it will definitely do best with CO2. It will need moderate amount of light, and actually here it's going to be really shaded, as we can see already. So I'm probably going to put more crypts around there. Have we got the Lutea?
We've got some
Lutea Hobbit,
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thanks, mate. I'll leave you with the Marseillais and I'll start rambling about crypts. Okay, so we've got a couple of different Cryptocorini species here. Willisii, this is from Tropica. Probably won't grow much taller than that, but the leaf shape will change significantly. You can see it's kind of like a bulbous end there as it adapts to its underwater growth. So this has been grown in a greenhouse, grown emergent out of water. So eventually that will adapt to underwater growth. It'll have much more of a sword type leaf. You can get crypt melt. You might have heard of this. So as the plant adapts to its new environment, it can kind of shed its old leaves. Nothing to worry about. Just remove that old leaf if it's dying off, and then it'll create new leaves, which will be readily adapted. So don't tend to get much crypt melt. I think our hard water helps. Have you noticed? Do you get much?
It's a bit here and there. Actually, no, to be honest. We get the odd leaf. We don't have the whole thing going away.
That's good.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, it's one of those things. That's the fun part of the hobby. You know, sometimes crypts especially will look very different in different setups, depending on your light situation, how much nutrients you're using. If you're using CO2, the substrate, you know, you can get some real significant kind of changes in their physical appearance, which is I find really interesting. So the crypts will generally grow very well in low lighting, almost in the dark. And yeah, very easy. Most of them don't need CO2 injection, although all aquarium plants will massively benefit from CO2 injection. And I recommend it for almost anyone keeping a planted aquarium. There's a lot of worry about CO2. It can be relatively expensive for a decent quality system. But it's an investment, you know, and we're investing in our hobby. And we've already talked about how important it is, you know, for our wellness, you know, to have this hobby. And we're not just looking after the plants and the fish, they're almost looking after us, you know. So don't be afraid to spend a bit of money. Save up if you need to, get a CO2 kit, get your refillable cylinders from Dave. It's good value though, isn't it? I mean,
once you've got CO2,
what are you looking for a sort of system these days? A couple £100 quid?
A couple £100 for the kit, yeah. But to run it's really cheap. It's about £10 a month on this tank size, for example.
Okay, yeah.
Once you've got the equipment, you never have to buy it again.
Yeah, but buy decent quality CO2. You know, CO2, it is a potentially dangerous thing. You know, you're talking high pressure, 800 to 1,000 psi with a fresh bottle. So you don't want to be buying cheap second-hand regulators off eBay, for instance. You know, buy a decent quality system from Dave, of course. And you can't go far wrong. There's plenty of videos on there how to set them up. If you're worried about setting it up, Dave will give you a tutorial.
Yeah, you can come in here and we'll show you exactly how it works.
They're on, I think all the systems.
CO2, yeah. The Strideways and we're getting Life Aqua ones in soon, but those regulators are come through and they're really, really good.
Cool.
They'll last you a long, long time.
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
Sorry about that.
They last a long time.
We're planting some really small crypts. These are called Cryptocorini Lutea Hobbit. I haven't actually used these at home because these aren't tropical. Is this Deneley? Yeah. Do they get much bigger than that?
No, there you go. There's one in the bottom right of Pavel's tank, bottom left even. There's a brown crypt. That's it there.
Oh, okay. That goes brown.
Yeah.
Like a light brown. Nice.
So it's really red in light.
Doing good light.
I like it.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good topic, actually. red plants. A lot of people love red plants for good reason. High impact, nice focal point, but you'll generally need more lighting. So a lot of people talk about iron content or limiting nitrogen, but the number one thing is just get more light if you can, and you'll get much more red. It's almost like a suntan, isn't it? It's like the plant producing its own protection against too much light. Yeah.
It's a good analogy for it. I planted some of the Cronata, as we forgot.
Oh, yeah, thanks, mate.
So
Yeah.
do a test and see how it goes.
Yeah, so as you can see, we've planted it in between the wood here as an epiphyte. There's no reason why it won't work, because we're going to be dosing liquid fertilizers, so the plant will be able to get nutrients from the water. We'll be using CO2 injection, of course, so we'll be able to get CO2, plenty of CO2 from the water as well. And hopefully, my idea in the longer term is it's going to creep over the wood, and it's going to meet the carpeting Marsilea, and then we'll have this sort of natural creeping of the plant and really enhance this kind of triangular flow that we have already. Oh, is this the Parva in 1-2 Grow?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I've never seen it in
It's
the
even
1-2.
smaller in the
Yeah.
It's more like
It looks more like Liliopsis.
Yeah, just a bit,
Yeah. So this is the smallest crypt that you can really get. This is from Tropica again. This is in the 1-2 Grow form. It will get a little bit bigger than that. It'll get a bit taller, and depending on your conditions, it can either kind of grow quite flat and sort of kind of elongate across the substrate, or it can go kind of a bit more vertical. Depends on your system and your substrate, etc. But we're going to plant that kind of intermittently, maybe around here, Dave.
Okay, mate.
You happy to do that?
Yeah, they would, yeah.
Cheers, mate. I'm going to accentuate sort of some height around here with some more Willisii. But yeah, crypts, I think there's about 20, 30 species commonly available. Tropica do 10 or 12. All low light tolerance. Not many need CO2 injection, like I said, but they will benefit. They might melt, like we said, but don't worry about that. Those leaves you can just remove, and then new leaves will grow back, and those leaves will be adapted to grow out underwater. It's a really good talking point, actually, about emergent versus submersed growth. So when you buy a regular potted plant, especially from aquarium gardens, they're stored hydroponically. That means the roots they're in circulating nutrient-rich water, and then the actual leaves are allowed to grow in the air. Now, that's really how they grow in nature. 90% of plants, probably even more, will spend most of their time actually growing out of water. And they prefer growing out of water because they have unlimited amount of CO2 in the air. CO2 is much more available in air than it is underwater. I can't remember what the ratio is. I think it's like 400 times more CO2 in the air than you get naturally underwater. It will be much more robust. It has to support itself, with gravity and the air. So the actual leaf structure will be a lot more robust, which makes it much better for transportation. And interestingly, arguably, you could say, when you buy a plant in its emerged form like this, growing out of water, it can actually be more adaptable than if you bought a plant that was grown underwater. So for instance, if I took a clipping of this Rotala hra here, this beautiful red stem plant, this is obviously adapted to its underwater growth. If I took that out of that tank right now, and I went to your house in Manchester, yeah, you have really soft water. Is that right? Yeah. So we have hard water here. So that would really struggle to adapt, and it would probably die, in fact, and you get melting, which we get a lot of, disintegrating of the plant. So what you can do, if you buy that plant when it's grown hydroponically, it's actually got as much chance of growing in here and the same chance growing in your tank at home. So these plants that are growing hydroponically are actually quite adaptable. The good news is you can even bypass that process by getting the Tropica 1-2 Grows, for instance, that have been grown in this sterile liquid jelly or some sort of nutrient-rich media, and it will have as much chance again as growing in here that it was in really soft water. But the benefit of the 1-2 Grows is it's already adapted to grow in that liquid, so it's kind of adapted to its submersed state, so it will start growing straight away. Whereas with this type, it's going to take a little bit of time to adapt and then to really start growing, and you've got more chance of melting. So my preference is always to go for the 1-2 grow, the tissue culture if you can. But if you can't, you know, hydroponic potted plants are the next best thing. And the least favourable option is to buy the submersed plants that are already grown underwater, if you like. They have a lot more, you have a lot more difficulty potentially adapting. But if you live in the local area and you bought underwater plants from Dave, they'll probably be fine. But if you're from Manchester or from a soft water area, you might have some difficulty. That's quite a complex topic. I hope I've made it relatively simple to understand. Yeah.
George, over here as well?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That sort of little...
Yeah. We didn't have any albedo brown, no?
No, we were out of that.
No, that's a shame. I love albedo brown.
You can add it in later on.
Yeah. Have we got any? Yeah, you've got some in there.
A little bit.
The albedo browns here, guys. I don't know if you can see these little brown spiky leaves. Just add a little extra kind of je ne sais quoi to your carpet. So we've got a bit of a shaded area here as well. So this will be good for the crypts. Oh, in fact, with the schismatoglottis. Can we get some schismatoglottis, prey toy? Is it in pots? Yeah. Go for, how generous are the pot? Okay, go 3 pots. Cheers, mate. Sorry? Oh, yeah.
Just one?
Yeah, just one, please, mate. Yeah, thank you.
I think that's in the... Where are we? I think that's in the reserve section, Steve.
So we do have a bit of rock here, so I can't plant into that, of course. Any questions on planting so far?
So you're planting quite deeply. Do you have to... Can you go sort of higher?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can go. Yeah, top. Sometimes if you've got like a bigger root structure, you go quite deep and then lift it, and then the roots will kind of straighten out. Arguably, it will give it more of a chance. But really, the plant, if you're giving it the right conditions, good light, good CO2, good nutrients, it doesn't matter where those roots are. In fact, like we've done with the Marsilea here, it's not even in the quite near the surface. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Some species, like a crinum or an nymphea, you know, you shouldn't really bury that crown, like you say, or the bulb all the way under because it can rot. It's a similar concept to a lot of epiphyte plants, like anubias in particular. The kind of fleshy portion where the leaves grow from is called the rhizome. That needs to be exposed to circulating water. Otherwise, it will, in anaerobic conditions where there's no oxygen, it will just rot away. So, but with most rooted plants, it doesn't really matter how deep you go. Is that all in already? Was it? Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. Yeah. So we need to do the schismatoglottis, don't we? We're going to, I think that it's quite low light tolerant, isn't it? It'll go down here and we'll creep it up here, I think. That's quite nice. And then, Tom, will you get me a load of anubias, please? The smallest ones you've got, like a petite, whatever. Have you got any mini coin in? Yeah, a few mini coin. And while you're there, a load of bucophilandra. Various. Here's mate. Thanks for helping, Dave. It'd be all night otherwise, wouldn't we? Yeah.
Speeds up the process a little bit. Are you doing any ferns apart from them?
Can't do a George Farmerscape without ferns, can we? I think, yeah, a nice trident fern here, all the thirds. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking then maybe some like stems just sort of wedged in here.
Yeah, we could do.
Hygrophila. We're going to use
Some
the.
more soil in there, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good shout. I'll do that now. And possibly that's powder. So we're going to plant a load of stems. We talked about the importance of some fast-growing species to help avoid these early algae issues that you can potentially get. So the faster they're growing the plant, the more nutrients it's sucking in, and that leaves less nutrients for the algae to grow. So we're going to plant, do Did we talk about Hygrophila Ronesavig?
Polysperma Rosenavig. What's the other one? Palmyra Philomatic Sensor.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be a nice blend of textures.
Yeah.
Does the macro sensor go like a pinky red colour? Good light, isn't it?
I've had it go orange, yeah.
Orange, is it?
But I imagine it probably would go pink on the
So it'd be nice to go with the, just a bit of colour with the polysperma. Oh, gone to the front. That's a deliberate mistake. We're trying to talk about mistakes, didn't we, and how good they are to learn from. Don't pour too much soil in at once. Yeah. Got more tweezers.
Plants are still there.
Yeah, just buried. Oh, thanks, Steve.
If we put loads of the schismatic glosses there, like tons of it,
Yeah,
that'll hold it all back anyway.
yeah, that's a good shout. Right, here we are. So this is quite a new plant to the hobby. Schismatoglottis praetoi, very similar leaf shape and colour and texture to Anubias nana. Actually get a little bit of a bigger leaf shape, leaf size like this here. Very low light tolerant, so it's going to be great around this area here. It's a little bit shaded, and because it can also grow attached as an epiphyte and also rooted, we're going to use a similar concept to the Marsilea of have it going in the soil and also out of the soil attached to the wood to create this beautiful coherent kind of triangular theme. So I'm just going to use my fingers for this, I think. Oh, watch that one. Oh, yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah, sounds really healthy.
You can see it now.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. So we're going to wedge one portion here. And some around here. I'm a wedger guy. I'm not like, I don't like to use cotton thread or super glue. I just like to wedge my plants. Get your hands dirty. And then I reckon some more. Yeah, I'm just going to use a big load down here, mate, I think. One bit there. And then, do you want to plant the verticulata around here? It'd be quite nice. So Hydrocotyle verticulata, reminiscent of like little mushrooms, has a very distinct vertical stem with a circular like plate leaf at the top. Many of you may have seen this. Is there any? Got any in? No, we don't have any in the store.
No, not at the moment.
I remember being really prominent in the 90 that was there.
It was,
Yeah.
We actually had it mixed with a little bit of finasa and the little leaves kind of spread and come up in random places. Little mushrooms.
Yeah, so it does carpet. It is a advanced category plant, so definitely need more light, more CO2, more nutrients. But it's very interesting. It's quite nice. You can use it as a group like we're going to do around here, but it's quite nice to kind of use intermittently across a bigger carpet or a bigger surface area. And it just sort of, draws your eye and stops from looking too monotone. No disrespect to this aquascape, but it's a very kind of, you have this kind of monoculture thing going along here. But you can imagine if you had sort of intermittent kind of little bits of verticulata popping up here and there, it would just be more kind of a natural look. Oh, thanks, mate. It's really Anubias. Okay. One of my favourite Anubias is Anubias petite. Very slow growing. It's a variation of the Barteri family. There's dozens of these, new ones coming out all the time. But a real classic. I've got loads of this growing in my Highline 400 at home. And it's just such a joy to watch grow. And it's so slow and steady. It does really well in the shade. In fact, you don't want to put too much light on it because you can get algae issues because it's so slow growing. You'll find this a lot with really slow growing aquarium plants. They tend to be more susceptible to algae because if you think about a plant as it's growing, it's basically in essence producing chemicals that fight off algae. So this is why we try to use fast growing plants at the beginning of Escape's life to fight off the algae. But if you have slow growing in combination with high light, then you have more algae issues basically. So I'm going to just wedge these in strategic points around here, and this is going to look great, of course, add a sense of maturity to the layout, and also cover up those nasty white pieces of cigarette that we use to glue the cigarette filters to glue the wood together. There's a bit here. Just get in there. And then over the next few weeks or so, as the plant grows, the rhizome is going to really and the roots are really going to adhere to the wood and the rocks, and they'll be super, super strong. Doesn't take too long at all to do that. That's a really nice slow grower. We're actually going to be there's actually going to be quite a lot of light hitting around here, so we could mitigate that with floating plants, although we might not want. It's always a balance. So we want a lot of light for the stem plants potentially, but not too much for the Anubias. We're going to have some fern here, so that's eventually going to kind of shade over here. We could put a fern here potentially. Did you want to use Bulbitis, Dave, at all?
It's up to you. It's your scape. I think it looked quite. What we plan on doing, Bulbitis and Trident, or just Trident, or just Bulbitis?
Good question.
Quite Trident and quite a few scapes.
Yeah, I think maybe just Bulbitis. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of.
And it'd be near the Anubias, so you've got this African theme going on.
Yeah, I think it's well wood as well.
Yeah. It'll kind of flow across.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Some Bucophalandra on its way, hopefully.
Ariane, have you got any more vertical art, please? Yes, please. Thank you.
Any questions, anyone? Anyone? No? Do you have a look around the front, mate? See what you think.
Yeah. Thinking if you put like Bulbitis there, it might shade the Anubias.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Have we got plenty in stock?
Yeah, I've got loads. About 40 pots.
Oh, well. Should be enough.
Yeah, come and have a look around the front, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Bucophalandra around and some mini. Have we got mini coin? Is Tom busy? Is he getting plants?
Oh, no, not yet.
Are they in tissue culture, the mini coin? Or? Yeah.
I haven't actually looked at it from the front yet.
It's good, mate. Really good. Yeah, I'm going to save all that area for the Bulbitis.
Good glue Anubias. That's going to be like completely covered in shade.
Yeah. Could even wedge. I think it'll wedge it. Maybe not.
I think there's a dab and you stick it on.
Just a bit of dab on the rhizome, maybe. So if we go in, let's get a bigger bunch if I can. Or maybe just a dab on the root, actually. I think Mick told me off once for gluing the rhizome,
right.
yeah. So we're actually putting super glue on the roots themselves rather than the rhizome. The rhizome is the more sensitive area where the roots and the leaves grow from. Okay.
Cramp in the end.
There. Whoa. Okay, just leave that there for a minute. Hopefully my finger is going to come away. Oh, there's a Buca Phalandra there, nice.
Yeah, looks like we've got some Thea and Lamandu, I think.
Nice. Okay, let's talk about Buca Phalandra. This is all sustainably produced Buca Phalandra from the greenhouses in either tropical or aquafleur, maybe.
These ones are Aquafleur,
Yeah. Good story about Buca Phalandra. It's one place it comes from, and it's the jungles in Borneo, and they're decimating these jungles in order to produce palm oil. So it's really sad that you really want to be careful where you're buying your Buca Phalandra from, because a lot of it is a result of this over farming, and it's just a sad story that a lot of things in our hobby are related to kind of unethical practices. So that's why I always recommend sourcing your plants from a reputable store like Dave, where he only buys from European greenhouses, etc. So just be careful if you are buying wild plants. Just be careful where they come from. They can come with a host of parasites, etc. as well. A lot of plants that are grown in Asia, for instance, especially that are grown underwater, will be treated with a lot of pesticides, and this will absolutely, if you don't do the appropriate treatment on them before you add them to your aquarium, you can literally wipe out all shrimp instantly. Invertebrates are super sensitive to pesticides. Think about a pesticide, it's designed to kill invertebrates basically, so just be super careful. We're talking like parts per billion, really, really tiny amounts of pesticide will just wipe everything out. So if you can, just buy, the number one thing, buy tissue culture, like the Tropical 1-2 Grow, absolutely no chance of pesticides. Failing that, a reputable potted plant like Dave has here. So Buca Phalandra, very similar growth conditions to Anubias, does best attached to decor. I have seen it grown in substrates before. I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah.
You can do it.
You can do it.
But just don't try not to bury that rhizome too deep, because it will go anaerobic.
And all the roots going into substrate, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
exactly. But what we'll do, we'll attach this to various locations. A little pop there, maybe. And this does tolerate more light, so you can get some really interesting colours on different Buca Phalandra species. It doesn't tend to get as much algae as Anubias under high light conditions. Very popular, trendy plant, isn't it? People like to collect different.
4 years ago, we didn't really have any.
No, exactly. This is it, Thea, is it? This one?
Yeah, no, Lamandu.
Lamandu. Okay.
This one's Thea here. It's got more like a more rounded leaf.
Okay, yeah, it's like Buca Phalandra red.
Yeah. This one can go like bluey colour there as well.
Okay, yeah, you can get some like real interesting iridescence, can't you?
It all depends on
The lighting, yeah. Are you more of a Buca Phalandra man or Anubias? What's your?
Buca Phalandra. I say Buca.
You say Buca Phalandra, yeah.
I'd say Buca.
Buca.
Yeah. Tom, can I get some more glue? Just like normal plant glue. Yes. Cheers. Oh, you got any rapid over there? It's a big one. No. Oh, okay, it's normal one. Thanks.
Those are Buca Phalandra. Okay, so I think. Oh yeah, let's put some in here actually.
You could like glue it all the way up to the top. Just like cake it.
No.
Or cover the wood.
Okay.
Or it would cover up the wood.
It would.
Take away from
Yeah, it's such a beautiful textured wood. I don't really want to cover it totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Just pop that there for now. Cheers. Do you want any glue, George?
Yeah.
When would you start liquid fertiliser? From the start or later on?
I actually do it from the start. Some people will wait a while. The thing is, when you're using a lot of tissue culture plants, these are baby plants and they need more nutrients. They don't have a big nutrient store. So these are grown hydroponically in the greenhouses. They've been grown for many, many weeks in very, very nutrient-rich conditions. And they'll have a lot of nutrient store ready in them. Tissue culture plants, can you just chuck me a pot just so I can give Caroline? Chuck any pot at all. Sorry, no, 1, 2, grow, sorry. It's like working here again, isn't it? Sorry. Cheers, thank you. So these are potted. These have been growing for many weeks, like I say, in very nutrient-rich conditions. Had a lot of opportunity to take in all that nutrients, and in times of kind of starvation, it will rely on those nutrients to carry on growing, no problem. However, these, although they're growing in nutrient-rich liquid, they've only been growing for a few weeks, and they haven't actually had, and they're so small, they're like babies, they haven't had the opportunity to gather as much nutrients. And so if you're using a lot of 1, 2 grow, the liquid fertilizer is required to give them the nutrients that they need. If you don't give them enough at the start, the plant will suffer. And then, like we talked about earlier, you know, we're trying to create the best environment for the plants. The healthier those plants are growing, the less chance of algae we get. So in my mind, put liquid fertilizer in from day one, especially if you're using 1, 2 grow. What do you do? Do you do it from day one?
We used to. We do it from 2 weeks now.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Rely on the soil and
yeah,
the water changes really.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, whatever works.
Whatever works for you, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, especially depends on the layout maybe as well.
Yeah.
Really with Gumi, you might not need it's all carpet plants and antibiotics.
Yeah, and you're using a lot. Yes, that's a good point actually. If you're using a very nutrient-rich substrate like we've got here, you know, liquid fertilizers aren't essential from day one, but I like to spoil them. You know, I like to give them exactly what they need. Loads of nutrients from their roots, from their leaves as well, and then they'll just grow more robust and then less chance of algae. Absolutely, on that same kind of tangent, absolutely add CO2. If you're planning on using CO2, add it as soon as you can, and then actually have the CO2. We normally have the CO2 come on sometime before the lights come on, and that gives the plants opportunity to use that CO2, because CO2 is actually really unstable in water. It can gas off really quickly, so we need to add that before. Often we need to add that before the lights come on. So we're aiming for about 20 to 30 parts per million CO2. So you have it come on quite a few hours before, don't you?
4, 5, 6 hours maybe.
Really?
The tank comes on about 3 in the morning, and the light comes on at 10.
Wow.
It's just to be like absolutely sure.
Might as well have it on 24/7.
I know. Well, yeah, this is it. It's on actually probably on about 12. 13
Yeah.
anyway, so.
I mean, I have mine come on an hour before. My CO2 comes on an hour before my lights, and then it comes off about half an hour before the lights go off. So
I think one other point.
Yeah.
On the time of the CO2, if you don't want the CO2 to rise and rise and rise throughout the photo period, because you end up with really high CO2 at the end.
yeah,
You can get away with maybe a smaller bubble count and then a longer drive up period.
okay,
To the lights, and then hopefully that equilibrium will be more stable throughout that period.
right,
If you like blast it for an hour before, it might carry on going up.
yeah, okay,
Depends on your water though and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. In general, the softer your water, the easier, the kind of easier the plants can use the nutrients in the CO2. So you'll find, if you're lucky enough to have softer water, most plants do better. Most fish, tropical fish, do better in softer water. So you won't need to use as many fertilizers or CO2. That's just generally speaking. And these soils will actually drop the pH and reduce the hardness as well. So that's actually a benefit to the whole system. There's a few plants that will really do much better in harder water. Vallisneria is one of them. Some crypts will do really well in really hard water as well. Sagittaria is another one. Echinodorus. But if you give the plants enough CO2, enough light, enough nutrients, it really doesn't matter how hard the water is. You can have
a few that don't really.
Yeah.
Like
There's a few. Yeah, there's a few species that struggle, but
not many at all.
yeah. I mean, you have Areocalons, you know, stuff that's regarded as really difficult growing in relatively hard water. I mean, it's about 300 or 400 TDS, I think.
It's really,
Yeah.
It is. The Rotala Willichi, or Williki, however you say it,
Yeah.
that never does well in our water.
Okay.
It goes off well for about a month and then.
Uh,
That's
ah,
right. We've got some up here.
yeah, I'm just thinking where we're going to put the bulbitis in, and we can work around the bulbitis, I reckon. Beautiful plant. A common name is African water fern, bulbitis hoodalotii. This has been grown in its emerged state, so out of water, and actually it will actually change significantly. It's got quite an opaque leaf at the moment. As it grows underwater, adapts underwater, the leaves will grow much bigger. The sawtooth appearance will be more pronounced, and it actually has a really beautiful translucent look to it as well. Once it's adapted, it will grow quite quickly. It will need maintaining. You can just thin it out it grows from a rhizome, and you can literally just kind of pull the portions that you want away. Generally, we don't trim the plants because that stem then that's left over will rot away. So if you do want to remove the leaf, you need to do it as near the rhizome as you can. Okay, but does really well in lots of flow, good CO2, and it can be quite a brute once it gets going. But it's going to grow like this, and it's really going to accentuate this triangular kind of look that we're after. I just realised it's quite similar to the shape I did there, but a reverse. With the trunk on this side, isn't it?
Well, also this trunk's further to the glass.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because it was back here.
I do like a triangular layout though.
But yeah, we've got the carpet this time. There's soil everywhere.
Okay, should we get some stems
And,
for
with the
the Matoko sensor? Yeah.
How many pots? Should do 5 of each. Start with
Yeah, sounds good.
5. Matoko sensor and Razenovic. Thank you. Every time I look up, I can't see.
That light is mega, isn't it?
That looks really nice.
Yeah. If we can just wedge a small piece in there, maybe. I've got some Eboldii. That might be nice, actually. I wonder where.
Probably you might not see it straight away.
That's all right. Yeah, you could do that, mate. I'll just carry on with the bulbitis.
There?
Yeah, perfect. That's Lagonendra Eboldii red, quite similar to Crips, although it's a rhizome plant. It doesn't grow like a rosette. Yeah. So it has a rhizome, but it does work really well in the soil. And good light, you'll get really beautiful burgundy kind of leaves. Has almost like a furry kind of texture to it. It's really interesting. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful plant. It's just going to add a little bit of extra colour to this area here. Right, I'm just going to try and
give some shade to this.
Oh yeah.
And it'll sort of flow down.
Yeah, that's good, cool.
We're getting some sensor and we're going to do high filler.
You want some Echinodorus, don't you?
No, I was saying something like Rio Onion sensor, something fast growing.
Yeah.
When we're looking from that side of the room, George, the right hand side is a little empty.
The right hand side here? Oh, here? Yeah, putting stems there. Yeah.
What about a low? We've got a new plant in called Limnophylla Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
And it's a bit like a nicer version of Rotala Green. And that stays really low.
Oh, let's put that there then.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah, I've always wanted it. It's the first time I ever got it. Okay.
So just there's a little kind of cranny here. I'm going to stick a little bit more in there.
Yeah, when George was playing with the wood, like he moved that big chunk over there towards the back, that would leave you at loss. So you can have all the massive stuff at the front there. Yeah. And the kind of the woods, the twisty bits go a little bit smaller to go back, looks over the glasses, and the rotala, the limbo for the Vietnam at the very back. It's a really fine texture.
Yeah. No algae on it either.
No, it's clean as a whistle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome.
Hardscape is actually.
Oh yeah, thanks mate. I'm only doing water changes on it every sort of 10 days or so now. Yeah. So last kind of group of plants, we're going to do some stems at the background. We've got three, we do three types, aren't we? Limnophylla Vietnam, which is a new one over here.
What do you think next?
And then I think the Mataco sensor in the middle. No, because the pink and so the rose only the big's going to go pink, isn't it?
And maybe in the middle.
Middle, and then the Mataco sensor at the edge.
Because that will kind of fill out really easily at this.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
It's really fine anyway. So
Yeah, and it'll be nice because near the light, it'll be really compact growth. The Hygrophila rosenavig, which you'll be planting, is actually quite a fast grower, so that could potentially be replaced in the longer term. It'd be nice to see it, you know. And
it'll definitely help in the first 3 months having all that.
Yeah,
that mass.
It's actually a mutated species of polysperma, regular polysperma.
Yeah.
It's got some sort of virus which gives it that pink striation. Yeah. Is that the Limnophylla, is it?
No, this is the
Rosenavig. We said that in the middle, didn't we? Cool. So the Hygrophila polysperma rosenavig isn't pink yet, but under good lighting, you might be able to just see those kind of variegated textures there. That'll take on a really nice pink hue. And it's just a brute. It doesn't, you know, it's really great for helping. We call these helping plants. They're really great for helping to prevent algae in the early stages. What you can do is you can just get a load of them together in one big bunch. You've got the bigger tweezers actually. Yeah, I'll swap you. Cheers. So this is a good idea to use like a more heavy duty set of pincets, and you can grab a load of stems in one go. And then in we go. And then it grows quite chaotically. It kind of branches off randomly with side shoots. So you can really kind of use your topiary skills and create the kind of desired kind of bush that you like. Under good lighting, as with most stems, the more light you have, the kind of the shorter the internodes are. So the internodes are the gaps between the pairs of leaves there. So at the moment, they're about, what, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. As with good light, good CO2, good circulation, those internodes are going to get smaller and you'll create a much more compact kind of appearance, which is generally what we're desiring in aquascaping. If you don't have good light, and you tend to get more leggy growth, as the plant's trying to reach towards the light, those internodes become a lot larger. Just leave a gap there for the Limnophylla. And then, do you think some Hygrophila down there, do you reckon?
I reckon, yeah.
Or do you think Mataco sensor?
I reckon
Yeah, that's a good call actually. And then,
just because this is going to like
push
up rapid.
Yeah, got you. I'll just wedge those down here.
Vietnam, probably.
Yeah, probably just what?
A couple of pots,
just
or,
2 pots, yeah.
A couple of pots, please, thank you.
Who does that then? Is that Aquafleur?
Yes.
It's already dense without any growth.
You call it cheating, but it's
Just like I said earlier.
Just works. Because we're like in the showroom and
You want to
it's
get
not at home, you want 100% success. You don't, so we just overplant if anything.
Have you ever had a scape go completely wrong from the start here? I think, yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember.
Every scape has its problems, but I haven't had one that I thought 2 months later I'm going to take it down.
What's been your biggest issue that you've had to deal with so far?
I mean, this is challenging at the moment. This is definitely the hardest one I've done.
Is it?
I think it's because of the plant itself.
Yeah.
I've done it with goobies before.
Yeah.
I hate Staghorn algae. I haven't had that in a while. I used to get that on Java Fair quite a lot.
Did you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm not sure why. And then BBA's the nemesis, isn't it? Of any.
Yeah, that sort of seems to be inevitable. Though I never remember having it in the early stages of my hobby, and I don't know if it's like almost a new type of algae. Do you know what I mean? Because I literally never had it. But I don't know if I'd never had enough light or see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
We've any algae can be combated with plant mass, and over the years we've learnt that.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't get as much of it anymore.
Yeah.
We can even skip the diatoms phase with the plant mass.
That's interesting.
And that's why we basically bang on about it so much, because by the end of the day we want to get people's tanks successful. We want them to come back and be happy with it.
I'll tell you what, one thing that you've talked about, which is interesting, is actually a lot of people will think to combat algae they need less light, which can be true, but a lot of the time if you use such low light, the plants actually don't get to grow well enough to fight off the algae. So it's a bit of a balance, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest way I think is going medium, like going in the middle, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Because the plants don't get enough, or I've got too much. But if you either go super low light and loads of easy plants, it's dead easy.
Yeah.
Really low light, and then if you go super high light, the plants are maximised and they grow to their maximum potential.
Yeah.
And you go somewhere in between, it's always harder. The plants just like half steam. And
Okay, that's interesting.
More like to get algae, in my experience.
Yeah.
Full light. The biggest mistake a lot of people do is we always say start the light at like 50% or 60%, and then we'll increase it over the month to get to 100%. Biggest mistake most people make is when you get to like week 3 or 4 and you might get some algae and you're at about 80%, and then people will stop, will go down because algae, I'll turn down the light. Just carry on going, push through the algae, get the plant growth, and that will get rid of the algae.
Push through the algae.
You might get a little bit more algae in the short term.
Yeah.
And then you just stall, you get in that position where you're always at 60-70% light, you've always got algae, you never push through it.
Okay.
You see that
quite a lot, don't we? Panic.
Yeah,
And then they end up getting off to a bad start. It never kind of improves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the most popular plant that you sell here? Is it like the old school stuff like Valis and?
Valis is always,
Yeah.
Definitely Valis. You know that. And hair grass, I think, probably for the tissues. Do you think? Tissue boxes?
Java phone, yay.
The stem super red.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Definitely the
shout.
most popular
Yeah.
plant,
I've got some Pagostum in here, but I don't know if I've got any room. Maybe
Can't help it.
Helfari, yeah. This is Pagostum and Helfari. Comes from, the nickname for it is Little Dawnoi, which means little star, from Thailand. Actually really beautiful leaf textures, as you can see, quite crinkled. And it does, in my mind, it needs quite a lot of nutrients. It goes quite pale quite quickly. But I'll put it, I'm just going to try and find the odd spot for it. It'd be nice poking out here and there, I think. Pop a bit there. You can always take it out if it doesn't suit.
Yeah, we always need plants if it grows and doesn't do what we thought it'd do. Or...
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point as well. That you'll have an idea in your mind about the scape and the plan and everything, but that's not the final thing, you know. And we talked about enjoying the process, and part of the process is, you know, watching the scape mature and then realizing, well, actually that plant doesn't look so great there. I'm going to move it over here, and it's absolutely fine. You know, some plants might start outgrowing the tank. You can completely remove them and put some slower growing plants in there. So, for instance, this Rosenavig here, this Hygrophila, after probably 8 weeks or so, Dave will be fed up of trimming it, and we might want to put something a bit slower growing in there. But really great plant for the beginning of the scape's life to help prevent the algae.
Probably just keep it as a nice amount, not let it dominate too much.
Yeah. They're doing some big Calandra. Yeah, we've got quite a lot to use up still, haven't we? Don't want to waste it. So let's talk about fish. Where's our resident fish expert? Where's Ty? Ty, what fish would you put in here?
Whatever he's got at home, that he wants to get rid of.
Is that the standard, is it?
Everyone.
Everyone I was talking that tank's going to have quite a lot of shaded dark areas. So you probably want something small and something like the green neon. It's going to sort of reflect and as they go in and out of the shadows.
Ah, okay.
Contrasts really nicely with that green base you've got in there.
That's what I might actually do. Green neons in here.
It's a bit too open for them, isn't it? Yeah.
And then you put black neons in that one. And
Black neons, yeah,
green
yeah.
neons in,
Safe bet in New Zealand, black neons.
A bit in there.
You tend to put like a pair of wall cichlids, like Instagram or something in there as well. You get some movement and interest around the pieces of wood and the lower level.
Have you kept histogrammers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were breeding in one of my tanks. Yeah, the agassiz.
Yeah.
Oh, the cacatoides, sorry.
Yeah, cockatoo ones.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, and they do well in hard water as well. Most of them prefer soft water, but I think we're ready for water soon, mate.
Yeah. I've got some mini coins here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cute.
That's Serimbu Brown and mini coin, yeah.
Sure. One of my favourite plants at the moment is the Anubias mini coin. One of the smallest Anubias varieties we can get. It's a variety of the Barteri family, so similar to the petite, but a much smaller leaf. The leaves are actually a lot more round, hence the coin term. There is a regular coin variety as well, which is obviously a bit bigger, but they're so cute and dinky.
Do they stay dinky?
Yeah, it won't get any. The leaves shouldn't get much bigger than this at all. In fact, I've got some in my big tank at home, and the leaves are actually smaller. They seem to have got smaller as it's matured, which is hard to believe. You don't really expect leaves to shrink. But yeah, they've got some. I've got an open pebble foreground, and I've actually wedged small portions of the mini coin in between the pebbles. So it looks like it's growing in the substrate, but it's not. It's attached to the pebbles, and it's actually kind of almost carpeted. And they're so small. It's just I'll have to get a close up of it. Actually, it's really cool. But this is really slow growing again. Doesn't tend to get. It's not tend to be as prone to algae actually as the bigger varieties for some reason. We're not going to put any moss in here today. I'm not a big fan of moss generally. I do love a moss heavy scape, but in terms of keeping an aquascape in the longer term, it's quite high maintenance for it to look good. Moss tends to sink when you trim it, so you can tend to get pieces of moss floating around the scape and attaching themselves all over, which can be quite cool. But if you want to keep it quite neat and tidy, it's quite high maintenance. One tip you can do, I've done it before, is you can get the spring scissors, which are, have you seen them? They're like small scissors which are spring loaded, and then you can attach a piece of airline or a small piece of filter hose with a cable tie to the scissors, and then you can siphon as you trim, and then it will just suck away all those trimmings as you're doing it. running out of space, Dave, aren't we?
We're running, yeah.
It's not going to. How's it looking?
Yeah, it's looking really, really cool. I think you could put another bit of Boston Elfrey down here, maybe.
Yeah. Do you want to try?
Yeah.
Is it going to get enough light? Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I think where you put it is perfect, actually.
Oops, sorry, mate.
Want to finish it off with some of these detailing roots?
Yeah.
Do you think it needs it?
I don't think it needs it, mate. No. Keep it bold, maybe. Well, let's just have a little.
Take them out.
Just chuck us one and just see if I wedge it in somewhere and see what it looks like. Are these pre-soaked or?
These are pretty soaked, yeah.
So we've got some detailing twigs here, which can add really nice textures. So it's just going to be quite tricky to do it without disturbing the plants too much, you know.
That's it, yeah. The sort of thing, they're sort of bit things you can move around at any point.
Yeah.
So you can take them out for maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah. Elder roots, yeah.
Really popular. They've only been out. Yeah. Brand new.
Yeah, I did a video with Tom Ryan, and I think he had some in his scape.
Yeah,
Was it-
he had all sorts of stuff. Yeah, with lots of different, like,
Really detailed.
really detailed. Yeah.
Really nice if you like the feel of the diorama without wanting the.
Yeah. As that,
Yeah.
as that,
Without wanting the complex.
Yeah.
as that finer. Yeah, it looks good actually. Yeah,
What?
carry on. Yeah. Try some sort of vertical element down here.
They will disintegrate over time.
Yeah, that's okay.
But you can put more back in. It's just the nature of a thin bit of wood. It just will. But you can always put more back in. We could have put these in before the planting, but it would have been nice to have this plant.
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
Around all the. 'Cause I when I use these before, I had them a couple of weeks in.
Uh-huh.
That plant's all slipping and stuff.
Yeah, good shout.
It's quite fibrous. It's quite difficult to cut.
Looks weird. Have something a bit crazy, yeah, like yeah, like yeah, that's good. Yeah, and you can just play around once it's full of water. You can, yeah. Oh, right, let's get some water in there, mate.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're filling it up today. Or do you want to?
Yeah, fill it up now. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we can I'll drain it and fill it in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, right. Get the hose, Tom. Cheers, mate. This is the moment of truth.
Yeah, we're still. Yeah, but like we said, you know, we learn from our mistakes. If it does float, we know we need to do more.
Like
to
I
glue
said,
it.
it's my fault.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
The green.
I think it's going to be okay.
Should be all right. The only bit I'm worried about is this, but we'll have a few.
Should we
rocks.
put like a rock in the middle of it?
That's actually because you won't see it. This is like an insurance policy.
yeah, just a few like of
Those
those
little boulder stones. Yeah.
little boulder stones might help. Yeah.
I think it's going to be okay, but it's best to be safe, isn't it?
Mhm.
Slightly popping.
Yeah, cheers, mate. It's actually quite. Yeah, not going to be able to fit them in. We can just sort of.
Leave that one there. Yeah.
That's yeah okay. If that's not going to make any difference, they're not actually that heavy, are they? Take them out. Fill it with molten lead. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wood's going to be heavier than those two little stones.
All right. Spare plants, mate. If you...
Cheers. Filter floss will basically break a load of water, so uproot all those plants.
Cool. All right, mate. Enjoy that. Yeah.
Are you putting any chemicals in it at this stage, Dave, or just pure water?
Put in Seachem Prime, yeah, and that'll get rid of chlorine. You do that on every water change, and then we'll also whack in some Seachem Advance, which is phytohormones, get the plants going.
I'm actually going to lower the light down to make illuminate the scape a bit better. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, please, Tom. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Here you go. Okay, that's as far as it'll go, I think. Yeah, let's lift that one up a bit. Is that square? Is that square, Gary? Yeah. Here it comes. Ooh. How long is that going to take to fill, Dave?
About 2 hours.
Really?
No, it'll take about half hour.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be well.
Cool. Is there any questions while this fills? Because I'll probably just sit down there and I'll have a good old ramble. Unless there's some more questions.
There was a question online. Why spend so much time on the hardscape when you're going to cover the plant?
Good question. It's about the overall kind of theme that we're going for. So you could just chuck in the hardscape any old way, but actually, it's actually an enjoyable process spending the time on the hardscape. You know, you're working with these beautiful natural materials. You want to be creating the best thing that you possibly can. So it's a creative endeavor, what we're doing. We're not just rushing ahead to get that final product. You know, we talked a lot about process over outcome, enjoying the process, enjoying working with these amazing materials, connecting with the materials. And yeah, it's just, and it isn't actually completely covered in plants. You know, there's a lot of open wood here, and when it fills with water and it's properly illuminated, that will become more apparent. At the moment, the gravity is obviously allowing for instance, the ferns, the stems, you know, it's all kind of drooping over. So when it's actually full of water, it's going to expose a lot more wood as well. So yeah, I think that's a good answer.
You do lose a lot of hardscaping.
Yeah, you do.
Hardscape's there for your composition, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the backbone of the layout. You know, it's like you could say, why does a human have a perfectly formed skeleton if it's going to be covered in flesh and skin? Yeah. Any other questions from the?
What's your favourite plant? Is one of them?
My favourite plant depends on the situation, but I do love my trident ferns. There's plenty over there in that left-hand 90. Anubias petite is actually, I'm really having great success with it at the moment in my home tank. I'm really enjoying that. You know, it will change from month to month, but yeah, I love slow-growing, easy epiphyte plants in general. So they give you that instant maturity. They're easy to look after. They're low maintenance. So you get that kind of effort reward ratio is really great. You know, lots of reward for relatively low effort, low energy costs. You can create a very beautiful, very low energy, low maintenance aquascape using these slow growing epiphytes. So yeah, they're my favorite. Love mini coin. It's very new from Tropica, very cute. I'd like to see it used, you know, in a huge tank. It's absolutely loads of it. I think that'd look amazing. Be very expensive, but maybe in there, mate. We'll cover that whole lot in. I tend not to use stem plants so much. Once the scape's mature, I use them at the beginning of the scape's life to prevent these algae issues. But I find them quite a kind of transient plant. They'll look good, trim, and then with the offcut, replant. Is it okay?
It's okay. Yeah.
And then you have, the problem with that is you trim the beautiful stem plant and it just looks really unnatural. You know, it's just trimmed. But what we can do, when you've got enough plant mass, enough kind of bushy stems, you can trim that, and that offcut you could just replant into that bushy mass. So we call that topping. And so you prevent that kind of unnatural, just, you know, sawn off look. Here. Yeah. Yeah, so you know, a good example is here. This needs a trim here, and if you cut it off there, just for instance, that is just a brutal kind of offcut there. But what you can do is cut it right back so you don't see that at all. You use scissors, obviously, not your thumbnail. And then I'll actually be a bit more professional and use tweezers now. And then with your offcut, rather than like throwing it away or planting it into your soil, you can literally just plant it into your bush. And because there's lots of nutrients, lots of CO2, lots of light, that's just going to grow in that, almost using this bush as a substrate. And you can just repeat that process. But eventually, what I find with stem plants, they have almost like a finite life, and eventually just become really tired. And you can either just replant the whole lot or just use crypts instead.
What we did, you know, I've discussed with you now, resoil it.
Resoil?
Uproot the
Okay.
stems, get all the undergrowth, dead undergrowth,
Okay.
top all the plants,
Yeah.
new layer of soil, put the tops in, and then that's literally a month or so after doing that. And
That's interesting.
really good again.
Yeah. So they've got a finite life because they haven't got enough nutrients, or there's an excess of organic, like dead organic matter, kind of just slowly rotting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the new soil in there made plants go red again.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like the old soil was like depleted.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah,
The Mano talked about that you could only, he said you could only cut the stem plant 7 times.
okay.
Cut it down to the ground and
Start again. Interesting.
Yeah, that's probably about the average time when it starts looking a bit like
Yeah, so stem plants are great, like very fast growing, very high impact, but not like super sustainable in my mind. Or they are, but a lot more work. Whereas epiphytes, crypts, you can almost just let them grow. I did a big tank in London last year. Was it last year? Yeah. Huge tank in Canary Wharf, big 2,000 litre thing. And because of the size of it, we just use crypts and epiphytes because there's no way you'd be in there trimming every week. So, and you could just literally watch it grow for 12 months probably before you had to actually trim any plants. Same with that tank I did in Jersey. Remember Neil? Yeah, Neil's tank? Yeah. He sent me some videos as that was growing in. That was really cool. Yeah.
Is that the one under the stairs?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's a cool guy actually.
It must be a bit awkward to...
Oh, it was the hardest job I've ever done. Because to be fair, I was on my own, and I had sort of this much room to work in, and it was up here, and I had to. It was like half hanging in, half hanging out, and just it was just really hard. The lights are on, and it was very hard work, but yeah, it was good fun as well. So yeah, the biggest tank I've ever done. I think I worked on a project with a few other guys on a huge tank in Germany. A zoo. Where was it? Hamburg. 20. I want to say 28,000 litres. There's 4 of us scaping it, and that was I think it was a Sumatra biotope. Ferns. Thai. Where's Thai? Sumatra. What plants would you find? Crypts. Yeah. Yeah, we did actually. Yeah. You're a fan then? Fan of my videos? No. I'm actually speechless for once. He's starting to get a sense of humour, isn't he? Just sort of knock that out of him, Dave. That's the biggest I've done, and then I've done like really obviously tiny stuff. But even if you're on a low budget, you can still create real beauty. And there's actually something even more, in my mind, arguably something more beauty in really small aquariums, because it actually forces you to look closely. And there's a lot of beauty in the detail. I'm a big fan of macro photography, for instance, and things are very high impact and like awesome the bigger they are. But when you really look at the detail, you can have a shrimp only tank, for instance, use tiny textured plants like the mini coin or some hemianthus or, some fine textured stem plants. And, it could be on your desktop, it could be in your bedroom, and you could just sit next to it and just really, get right up close to it. And it just really, you can really connect with it almost more closely than you can with a bigger aquarium, because you tend to sort of stand back and you're arguably more disconnected. Whereas a tiny nano tank, you can really focus on it. And there's the joy of maintenance as well. You can really get into the details. Use some really, this wood, these little twigs here, you could create, just using that in a tiny tank would look really effective, and you can get these really great sort of sense of scale. There's some really great aquascapers out there that deliberately use this, and I forget the guy's name. It's a German chap, really nice guy. His speciality is really, really tiny tanks. He uses have you seen the mini complete tanks? They're literally like this big. I think they hold half a litre, but they've got a built-in sump and a built-in LED light, and it's all like an integrated unit thing. And they're even doing macroalgae with them as well now. And just by they're creating almost scapes with this amount of detail, but on a tiny scale, using appropriate plants, like using mosses as like a stem plant, or a carpeting plant. Yeah, exactly. They're not, a few days and it would be overgrown and stuff. But it's just what I'm saying is you don't need to spend thousands of pounds like you would on this system here to have that connection with nature.
See a lot of people doing exactly what you say.
Yeah.
Mini tanks.
Yeah.
Instead of almost like a desk height.
Yeah.
20, 30 meters.
Yeah. And you know, the sort of wabi Tweezers as well. So you're getting emergent growth, plants growing out of water, so much lower maintenance, no algae issues, no filter required. You know, there's no limit to aquascaping. You can go as big as small as you like, spend as much or as little as you like. Sorry. But it's all about connecting with nature, you know, and going back to what I was saying at the beginning of the workshop, you know, us modern humans are often very disconnected from nature. You know, we like our manicured lawns, you know, our paved driveways, you know, our flat screen TV, smartphones. You know, we're not actually really, a lot of us aren't really connecting with nature day to day. And I think aquascaping can help do that. And you can still get, you know, there's a lot of kind of geeky technical stuff around it if you're into that, but you can still have that with the connection with nature, which I think is why, you know, this hobby is so special, because it for me, it ticks so many boxes. You know, you've got nature, you've got art, you've got design, you've got technology. You know, it's educational for kids. You know, you can teach biology, chemistry, physics. You know, you've got the hydrodynamics of the water movement. You've got the biology of the photosynthesis. You've got the chemistry of the ammonia and the nitrogen cycle. You know, there's so much richness to the aquascaping hobby. And if you want to learn more, I've got a really good book as well. There's a new book coming out as well, by the way, while we're here. Ty Streetman, author, Aquatic Habitats book. So this takes the connection with nature to the next level in my mind. So what we're doing here is very aesthetically focused. It's about the visual of what we're doing. We're still getting that connection with nature, but it's very much about the visual art. Whereas I'm working on this book with Ty called Aquatic Habitats book, and it's using the concepts of aquascaping, like composition, plant growth, textures, but actually very much focusing on using plants and fish from the same region, from the same habitats. And Ty is an amazing author, an amazing writer, so he's telling these wonderful stories, not just about, you know, the step-by-step process of how to create the aquarium to replicate the habitat, but actually some context around the habitat, you know, why it's important, you know, some history about the habitats. You know, Ty will tell you more, but it's actually quite depressing in some ways, because there's so much deforestation and sustainability issues going on. And, you know, I think it's important that we kind of communicate these issues to the readers, because I think you only start really caring about something if you become aware of it, you know. And, you know, you might be keeping fish and shrimp and plants at home, and you have no real understanding of where these come from nature. And if you do read about them and start to care about them, then you may start to care about the bigger picture, you know, about where you're buying your products from, how much, you know, waste packaging you're using. You know, are you using palm oil products, for instance? You know, these are, you know, genuinely important issues that many of us aren't even aware of. So, yeah, I'm grateful to be involved with that project late, hopefully Christmas this year. Hopefully. We're still working very hard. I'm editing over 1,000 photos for it. Ty's writing about 1 billion words. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a real collaboration. Yeah, Dave's been helping out with supplying a load of products for it. He helped with some scapes as well. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm going to be doing more photos tomorrow. Hey. Any questions, guys? Another.
Slowest water pressure known
So on the filling, are you putting plain tap water in cold?
Yeah. Is it mixer tap? Is it warm? It's about 22 degrees C, I'd say, give or take.
So with you having the hard water, do you use RO down this end, or?
No, we don't. A lot of folk will, if they're like really interested in keeping sensitive fish or shrimp or breeding, and they need to have control over their water parameters. But I think we alluded to earlier, you know, we have very hard water here. It's probably you know, out of the tap pH 7.8 or so, TDS of around 300 or 400. which is like a GH. We've got a GH of 16 and a KH of 8 or something like that, 8 or 10. But it doesn't matter. I haven't tested mine since I've moved in with my beautiful wife. Never tested my water in my home for the last 8-9 years, and I don't need to, because I'm keeping fish that have been, they're captive bred fish usually. They're not wild caught, so they're not, you know, super sensitive to hard water. The plants actually don't care, most of them, if you give them enough light, enough CO2, enough nutrient circulation. You can arguably get better results by using RO or softening it somehow. But the trade-off is all that wastewater that you get from creating RO water. And then you have to, you know, remineralize as well to get the right. So it's just a much more labour-intensive way of keeping fish and plants. So my philosophy is keep what you can in the water that you've got, rather than trying to adjust the water to keep what you want, keep what you think you want. Because there's so many, you know, there's literally hundreds of fish species to choose from, hundreds of plant species to choose from that will suit almost any natural tap water location in the UK. It's yeah, that's it. The biggest pain, right, is in a rimless tank in hard water. There's these hard water marks. That's probably the biggest.
Yeah, go whiz around with it, then they clean it.
Yeah.
Probably about the main downside.
Yeah. You'll use a little bit more CO2 than if you had softer water and more fertilizers.
A couple of plants you can't grow.
Yeah, but there's so many you can. Yeah, you know, it's up to you. You know, it's down to your own tastes. But I try to make it as easy as possible for people. You know, as little work as possible in terms of, especially the water, because that's the main thing. You know, you're changing that every week.
Another reason why we do it is because 95% of our customers are on tap water.
Yeah.
There's no point trying to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a really good point. You know, the proof is what you can see here. Any customer can recreate this, and hopefully, this workshop has shown you step by step, you know, how we can create, you know, a beautiful aquascape without too much effort. I mean, I know me and Dave are quite experienced, but you know, the process is simple, really. You know, substrate, hardscape, planting. You know, and you can separate your planting into 3 main areas. You've got your foreground, mid-ground, background, and epiphytes. So start off with your substrate, choose appropriate hardscape, loads of it if you can afford it. You know, big pieces to fill up the height, fill up the width, make a really strong backbone of the layout, and then think about your foreground, mid-ground, background, epiphyte plants, and what kind of theme are you going for? What kind of story are you trying to tell with your aquascape? You know, get inspired by tanks that you see around you here. You know, the internet's full of great quality aquascapes. There's books. Dave's got a few books here. There's Takashi Amano's book there. There's no shortage of inspiration. And actually, today, there's so many great brands for making the hobby relatively easy. You know, when I started 20 odd years ago, there was, you know, we didn't have LED lighting. You know, there's one place I think in the UK that sold CO2 kits. You know, there's no soil substrates. Hardscape was just, you know, you had 1 or 2 types of wood or rock. And now, you know, look around you, it's almost too much choice, you know, but come to a great store like this, watch some good YouTube videos, and you can really kind of hone your own taste. You know, what do I want to create at home? What's my budget? How much time do I have to spend on the hobby? They're the 2 biggest things, right? You know, you might not have the budget for this or the time to maintain it, but you can still create, you know, something like that over there, you know, a 20th of the costs, but you're still getting that essence of nature, that connection with nature that we keep talking about. It's taken a while to fill, isn't it?
Are you going to let any plants grow immersed?
I think.
There's a nice little hole in the wood.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Maybe even a terrestrial plant, like an Aquarius or semi-aquatic.
Yeah.
Um,
Much experience in that, actually, but I'm sure we can look into
It has to be. It has to keep in. You know, as long as it's in keeping with the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do Bulbitis deformis? Have you ever got that in stock? Yeah, it's like it's like the Huduloti. Has a lot finer texture leaf. Tends to do much better kind of semi-aquatic.
Half in, half out, see if it grows.
Yeah. Any other questions? Voices going.
Bring out some nipples and stuff. You might say.
Oh yeah, bring some food out.
Everyone's probably hungry.
Yeah. Was it 20 past 9? It's about past my bedtime.
It's 20 past 8 or past 9?
20 past 9, mate.
No idea. You turn that light on and wrap it up or something, or do you want to leave it until it's full? For the viewers.
Yeah. Leave it. Yeah, leave it running, mate. Yeah, yeah. Put the backlight on there. Yeah, yeah. Oh, have you got?
Is it up?
No.
On now?
Nope. Is it broken?
On now?
Is it on now? Yeah. Oh, that's all right. Don't need that anymore anyway.
That's the only thing that floats your all.
Yeah. It's the only floater, I hope. Yeah. Oh. I'm just gonna sign this book for you. How do you spell your name? Is it Lucas?
Lucas. Yeah.
Lucas. Okay. Cool. And you, because you've already got one, haven't you?
Yeah. I'll go bring them in. Get them sorted.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Cheers.
Not the cheese bar.
Yeah, I found a lovely cheese platter in the fridge.
My wife won't be happy.
Pen.
Sorry.
Yeah. There you go, mate.
Thank you.
Enjoy. I was thinking it was for this guy here, but he's already got one. So I've crossed his name out and put your name there instead. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then that's for you. And then where's Farley? I've got this for you, mate. Oh, that's come out of its thing. Just to encourage you as a youngster in the hobby. It's come out of its thing. You could just sort of use some Pritt stick and glue it back in there.
I've actually got a fish room I'm looking for.
Some prints. Oh, cool.
You've like kept me in the hobby, and last year I think I'm leaving.
Oh,
Just because I had a lot of problems going on with fish.
oh, okay.
And so I just kept seeing your videos pop up again,
Yeah, yeah.
feeds, and you kept me in the hobby.
Oh, that's great to hear, mate.
And I've recently we've moved house again.
Yeah.
And it's all gone well, and I've got 11 tanks.
11. Wow, serious.
Nanos, 600 litre, and I've got
Wow.
240, and it's just gone nuts at the moment.
That's great. Where do you live?
Cambridge, literally right in the centre on the river.
Oh, okay. Pop over and have a look sometime.
I mean, a year ago, I had one Aquascaping and a
Yeah.
load, and I was really into breeding fish, and I had monster fish. Still got a biche and stuff, but I used to
Oh,
have
wow.
a massive flower horn.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably my small to leave hobby died. It was just a nightmare.
Yeah. Because you can get quite attached to them. They're quite a bit of a
very-
pet, aren't they?
Very like
Intelligent.
personal fish.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Like, I had a tank burst at sea.
Oh, nice.
Nightmare, but
But you're back into it now.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think it's just amazing that it's just got as big as it has to me.
Cool, man.
And I think you Mano
Yeah.
and MB Fish Tank
Yeah.
are thankful because my school, old school library had one of Mano's books in it.
Oh,
And I
wow.
stumbled across it when
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
when we were having an English lesson. I
That's
went,
awesome.
I'll read that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just,
Yeah, it's amazing. He's an amazing guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
My brother's actually in Portugal now, and he's in
Is it Lisbon, is it?
Lisbon.
Yeah.
I think he's tomorrow. He's thinking about visiting.
Oh, you should do, absolutely. Take some pictures for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd also like to ask, how do you get really good photos of fish tanks? Because it's just I struggle.
Decent camera helps, and then getting as much light as you can in the tank itself, and then minimising any light from outside the tank. So it really, everything in the tank's really well illuminated. And then I use Photoshop as well, which helps to like boost the colours and contrast, and you can play around a lot with that. So yeah, that's the main thing. Like good camera, good lens. So if you manage to invest in like a digital SLR or a mirrorless camera, get a really good lens for it, and then get loads of light in the tank, and then minimise reflections, and then yeah, it should be good. Yeah. All right, mate. Well, it's nice to meet you, Farley. Cheers. It's a long old live stream, isn't it? I suppose the battery's still running. It's good old iPhone Pro Max, got their big old battery. Yeah. I'll go and see my wife quickly. Hi, darling. Yeah, yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's so. So far, so good. Doing your drinks. Yeah, that's very nice. Just going to get a soft drink.
Sorry, what
All right.
the tank light and the spotlight just gives you that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, George.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's good fun, wasn't it? Glad Dave could help me out. Otherwise, I've been all night. Oh no, it's okay. Keep it real. So I don't swear. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Or number two. Really bad, isn't it? How's your new job going? Have you started? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. This is your fellow, is it? Yeah, nice to meet you, George. Nice to meet you. Thanks for helping out, Dave, with all the planting. We've been here all night otherwise, haven't we? Did you want a coat?
I'm okay. I've
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. You what you saw? Didn't realise you were there for a while. Yeah, it's cool. Any generation. I'll probably I'll just say cheerio to the YouTube audience and send it off. Yeah. I'm just going to say cheerio to the YouTube audience. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, and yeah, look after yourselves. Cheerio.